Okay. Let's get this party started. See if everybody hears me. Okay, looks like it's starting up in stream. Gonna go through some sections here. Good. Okay. Hopefully we'll get some time for people to start up. This is just starting. Waiting for the first person, whoever's gonna be first. Okay, there we go. Some people coming in. How's everybody doing today? Gonna give it a little bit of time before. How's it going, Guyane? Welcome. I'll let a few more people pile in before I start my normal spiel kind of stuff and get going for the today. Give it a couple minutes. It's a little bit slow. How's it going, Zorms? Welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to be going over top of episode 9. Pretty much going over the same things. Creating sculptures and creatures and stuff. So, okay, I'll go ahead and get started just so we can get to today's class. My name is Briley. Welcome to episode 9 of the ZBrushLIVE for Pixelogic. You can find me at www.bbriley.com, where you can find some of my different sculpts and items about me on my homepage. And also, you can find us at Grimm, where I do work with James Kane and Martin Verhoeven. You can find my shop, where you can buy my kits individually. More about me. Also, hook up to my Instagram. And so I appreciate you guys stopping by. For those who haven't seen what I do, here's some of the busts, t-shirts. These are some of the stickers and stuff I did for my little one, so kind of a little joke. And then about, and this is where you can kind of connect my Facebook, YouTube, you know, Instagram, LinkedIn, so on. And you can find my clients and stuff. Hey, how's it going, Side Effects? Good to see you again, man. And then some of the titles that I've had the honor to work on with some talented people. There's a bit more. I just unfortunately am still underneath NDA and can't really show it. You can find my work. If you just click on my work, you can find the general kit bash of just different things and sculpts, more personal stuff that I've done over the years. Some of the different pieces that I would love to do. This guy right here, it's called Robo Hobo. People ask me about it. He works great as a digital thing. To make him into a 3D kit would be kind of problematic, but I might. And then if you want to see 2D work, because I've been drawing since I was 4, so you can see more of my illustration and stuff I did for Disney and so on. And then you click down the 3D work, kind of will go over top of some more of my game assets along with mixture of different things. Press is the general press. You could always find any interviews or any kind of the previous ZBrush Lives, and I'll keep updating this in case you just want to find it through my website. And you can always drop me a line and contact me through here. Just drop me an email to say hi. I always love to hear from people, and if I can help, please let me know. Yeah, not much. You're not doing much sculpting, or because I've been doing quite a bit. Side Effects. You could also find me on artstation.com/spark. And again, it's just some of the different stuff, just different layouts, and you can always find me. And then through my Instagram, this is where I kind of try to update and some of the different things that I've been doing with some talented people and so on. As I said before, I am also part of a group called Grimm. Together we are called Grimm, and that's with James Kane and Martin Verhoeven, talented guys, more talented than I am. And you can find some of the different things. We're doing kits, and you can find more about what we do and hooked up to our Instagram at wearegrim at instagram.com. So, or I should say instagram.com/wearegrim. So we were just starting this one, so any kind of love and shares that you can put out, we definitely appreciate it. So, okay, so yeah, oh, I get it. Yeah, you have to finish up your sculpting. Yeah, there's always stuff to do, to be quite honest. So today, you know, to continue what I've been doing with these episodes and these just kind of fun little sculpts, is I've been taking 3D scans of different actresses' heads, and then just kind of taking a look at what you can work from it and to kind of create your monsters and just kind of have some fun with it. So this class is not about creating something, you know, to be all end all kind of thing. It's just to get in there, look for shapes, look for flow, silhouettes, thoughts, and just have fun. That's what art should be. That's why I didn't become a CPA like my dad. I thought this would be a little bit more fun direction. Raul's asking, how do you handle the 2D and how does it aid you in the 3D process? Well, traditional background, Raul, to be quite honest, my traditional background coming from 2D, drawing from life, all that kind of stuff, just pulls right back into what I do, into my sculpting, understanding the anatomy. So if you're a good traditional artist, 2D, I think it pulls over to 3D, and vice versa. I think it kind of helps you. I mean, there are different parts of, I mean, that's why in art there's so many different things you can do. And I have a tendency, I don't really sculpt, I mean, draw anymore. I sculpt my concepts out and finish out a lot of stuff because I've been doing this a lot more, I think, lately, and then I kind of draw over top of it. Also, please excuse in advance my dogs. One's kind of whining because he had to take a bath because he got into some mud. So he's going to be on the couch whining, and then a couple other ones. But I have my spray bottle handy, so I'll take care of them because they are part cat, I think. Rock hard. As with anything, because he's asking concepting, I don't know really how you can learn it though. It's a lot of work. that's what art is, just a lot of work. So just a lot of hours. So if you could only get to it a couple hours a day, I suggest you pick it up because it does take a lot. How's it going, me, Barry? Side effect, I'll go over top of the Polypaint if you could remember to kind of hit me with that again, and then I'll kind of show you how you can kind of skip around. So right now, guys, all I did is I brought in a scanned head from 1024. It's a scan data place, and a lot of good references as well. And the reason I've been doing this is because, one, I respect the traditional visual effects field where they build clay and they build the creature on top of the actor or actress's head, and I've seen a lot of people just take a scan data head and then just kind of go and, you know, make the nose a little bit bigger and call it done. So I'm trying to show that if you're going to use a scanned head, think about it in different ways, about to go out of the box, just have some fun with it in sculpting, in creating your own work rather than just tweaking something from a scan data. That's the one thing, is like, you know, it's a great resource, but using it in the correct way. Because I know a lot of people have trouble with anatomy to build it from a sphere and going through, and there's plenty of other artists on ZBrushLIVE and others will show you how to go from a sphere to a head and do all kind of stuff. So what I usually do is, as you can see right there, this is just the scanned head. And there's asymmetrical. So if I you know, go on this side and I start sculpting on this side, it's going to be different because the head is also, of course, asymmetrical. It's not a true symmetry. So what I usually do is I just will, on this, I will block off one side of the face without my symmetry turned on, make it into a poly group, split it off, and then just kind of use the subtool master and Miriam, and then Dynamesh, and then do a cleanup. And the reason I do a cleanup is because I actually like to go up and down on my forms, because when we are starting to create, it's a lot easier for me to go up and down, use the move tools, because right in the beginning I'm looking for the base forms. I'm looking for to get the silhouette, to get the large general forms of my creatures or ideas down before I hit to the secondary forms, and of course the tertiary details come at the end. And a lot of artists have a problem where they just go to the top tertiary details, and if you're, you know, as I say, if they're just concerning themselves with building the roof and they haven't built the structure of the house, you won't have a home. So how's it going, Yeto Art? Yes, this is live. I am live, coming to you live from the Colony, Texas. And then so one side is actually kind of, you know, mirrored. So this one I would say is a little bit thinner kind of face, and then the other side, the left side, I've flipped and I had a little bit, because it's not perfect, which is just a quick way to give some different shapes and forms, because as you could tell, even though I'm using this off of this one face, I have two different looks and starts. And a lot of times when you're starting off creating something, that you'll have a block, you'll have things that just, I mean, because right now I don't know what the hell I really want to make. I have some ideas of the shape of the face, and so I'm looking at the actress's head. Maybe I can pull something from her cheek area. Is kind of be kind of interesting to pull off. Again, she's a little bit older, so I have like the neck, some interesting forms and stuff creating down here. So I'm just going to quickly, I made a duplicate of the head that I'm going to use, and I'm going to just start pulling out. Again, mostly when I've talked about when you're creating as humans, if you know, we have four senses pretty much. We have the eyes, the nose, the mouth, taste, whatever, and the ears that people relate to humans. So if you take one of those away, it starts to go to the odd. It starts to create in a different direction. In other episodes I've done where I've wiped out the eyes, and I've taken out the ears, or you know, played with the nose and so on. I think I'm going to this one. You know, I like aliens. I mean, aliens are usually or atypical, where you see like a big eyes kind of stuff. So today, I kind of see her wide eyes. So I'm going to just, you know, really kind of emphasize those. I'm just going to kind of start pushing and pulling, and just start taking a look at, you know, maybe I just play with those eyes. And if I play with those eyes, then maybe I might reduce the ears, because this sense is taken over. And if I do that, let me go ahead and pull back some of the nose. So I'm just going to start pulling the shape, and of course, because I made the eyes really large, I'm going to probably make the head off a little bit larger to play with it. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely add some more eyelids into it, and because if I'm going to make this more detail, if I'm going to focus on the eyes, then I can kind of just, you know, keep playing with the direction of it. Because I do this, let me go up in one level, and right now we're seeing ET. I'm seeing like some kind of, we're playing off of certain forms, and of course, if you remember, well, for those of you who are kind of old enough to remember, ET kind of had that really, it was almost kind of like a skull, kind of, and it really widened out the face. It was almost like this, you know, regular channel. I don't think I'm going to go to that degree, and I might kind of start to pull away from some of that. But as you can see, right here in the eyes, I still have her eyelids and stuff I can kind of pull from, and then this is just where I might kind of change, and then I'm going to bring this direction down. And I'm not liking the more human nose, so I'm going to kind of probably take out some of that nostril, because again, I want to kind of go to the alien, and I haven't even touched. So now that I'm pulling more of this detail up to the front, you can see her jaw is kind of getting a little bit thinner, a little bit smaller. I'm going to probably pull that in, because I want to play with these forms of going from stuff. Hey, how's it going, Oscar? Oscar's another great artist on ZBrushLIVE. You guys could check it out. How's it going, Alex? Thanks for joining me today, guys. I appreciate it. So I don't think I want to have it so thin. I want to kind of probably bring up more of the shape, and starting to kind of get like this pig nose. So I'm going to probably knock that out a bit. Bring this down. So again, when I'm just like looking for the forms, I'm looking for just the general shapes. I'm not really concerned about too much right here. I'm just having fun, okay? Just taking a look at using some focusing so much on this one. When I go up into the face, I'm going to start digging out the cavity. I'm not going to use the eyelids she had in there. Maybe I might make it to where, actually, let's take a look. Maybe let's kind of think of like satellite. If we're going to make the ocular section so large, let's think of like maybe it's almost like a satellite dish. You know what I mean? In kind of a way that this is where a lot of the information kind of gets in. So let's go ahead and play with that idea that maybe that's just where a lot of her or its, I guess I could say, because I'm kind of taking it away from telling to if it's going to be a female or not. So let's just kind of play with this section a little bit more. And if I go to that dish field, then I'm going to go a little more concave. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just going to start building. I'm going to turn this down and connect the forms. Oops, having fun. Now, when you start doing a lot of these major shots to your character, you're just kind of playing around and looking for the forms. I don't know what the eyeball looks like into it. I'm just creating a negative section for it, so I should really kind of start to get some of the different items in there that I want to kit bash and to think. So maybe you might want to make this out a little bit more. And let's turn. So since I've got this started, I really need to kind of bring in the eyeball, or something that I'm going to work the eye section around. So all I'm doing is just, and this is what I do a lot, I just bring in like a spheres, and I just use them to kind of push and play with and get myself an idea of what's going on. Now, oops, you can still play with that eyeball once you kind of have that in there. So let's say that's good. I'm going to go to Subtool Master, just open that up and just mirror this, merge it in to one subtools, and to make sure the symmetry is turned on for those. So then I'm kind of able to kind of tweak and play with that. Okay, let's go back into this face, and it's looking kind of comical because I'm not fleshing out some of these different sections in the back here. She kind of has like that long neck, and again, this is, you know, I'm seeing ET. I'm trying to get away from ET right now. I see certain forms that, you know, a lot of people see when they do aliens, is like the you know, big eyes. You kind of fall into those shapes. ET was very friendly, so to kind of help me pull away from the ET friendliness, I'm going to kind of make it kind of more pissed off. So I'm going to bring the brows down. You're fine, Jax. Okay. So, and I might kind of, since I'm doing the saddle, I might have different levels of this section, and then start to play with some of the different forms going around here. I might connect this ear and start separating. So I'm using the actress's folds of her neck to kind of, again, just kind of play. Because when you're working on anything, just kind of try to use a few of the forms to help lead your eye around. Okay. And let's bring out the, because honestly, how is this going to eat? You know, it's got such a big nose, or a big eye socket. You're not going to be able to get the food into it. I'm going to connect. I'm going to start playing with some of the different folds here, because I want to bury that eye out, or, you know, back in a little bit, and play with some of the shapes here. Your eyes after first coffee, yeah. And again, I don't know what I'm planning to do with this. Right now I'm not really liking some of the forms. I have to pull those back out. I have to try some things, and this is where, you know, as artists, not everything you do or you're going to create, you're going to like. As long as you're kind of learning, I think as long as you're having fun, and as long as you kind of just relax, you know, you'll get some happy accidents out of it. And if I'm not liking certain forms, then that's just me to kind of try something to kind of to play. Because like maybe I bring these down to a section, or I need to bring the, excuse me, if I want to try to bring in a little bit more of that viciousness, maybe I just shrink these down a little bit, or turn down the mouth, to kind of help with some of, you know, this anger. And I got some of this sharpness, if I bring some sharpness into that chin, again, anything that kind of, you want to make it a little bit more mean, bring in some sharp points. If you want to make it more cute and cuddly, roundness, you know, certain things. So, how's it going? Pro, appreciate you showing up. Let's see. And please, if you guys have any questions, go ahead. I'm going to try to pay attention and think. How's it going? Appreciate you joining. Because it kind of, especially since I'm trying to find the form, it's a little bit harder for me to sit there and get going. Thinking what I want to do. I'm going to look from the side, and I think I'm going to kind of angle. I'm going off of this shape, guys, and I'm looking to kind of give some depth. If he's dealing with this much of a, you know, like I said, satellite, kind of like where these eyes would bury, if I turn on, like, you know, transparency, you can actually see how deep that eye right there for that sphere to kind of happen, that size of the shape. So I might have to kind of, you know, really kind of play with some of that depth to kind of help. I'm also going to kind of maybe, I'm using inflat, I should say, and then kind of burying that up to where I might kind of bury that ear a little bit. And then let's kind of play with some of the neck muscles. Okay, so when I look at this, you know, the eye can probably go a little bit bigger and wider. So I'm now going away from ET more into a praying mantis kind of feel to it. Let's kind of put this eye back a little bit more, and I want to kind of probably emphasize more of that, what do you want to call it, like angered brow. And I'm going to probably bring this out, because someone was asking me about the eyelids and stuff. When you're doing eyelids, and if they're going to connect, you got to look believable to kind of have a little section. So even though it's alien or whatever, it kind of has. I'm going to bring in some of where that eye will sit. I'm going to give like a little tear duct. And then, so let's bring in some more detail to that eye. When I do this, it's going to help me define the believability. By me pulling a little bit onto how a real eye might work, will help me to kind of define some of the details to make this character look a little bit more believable. I don't want it to be cute necessarily. Like I said, I'm trying to pull away from it. So let's figure out how to do that, and the most best way is to kind of give it a little bit stronger frown brow. So thank you, Renan. I appreciate it. Yeah, I see everything, yes. And it's just like, you can't, I mean, it's just like I could just kind of push, like, how far do I want to go? When I do that, it feels more insect, you know what I mean? Because on a praying mantis or certain insects, they're trying to see things behind them as well. So a lot of times their eyes will come out. I kind of said that this was a satellite dish, so I was kind of like burying it back in. So of course from the side you really can't see too much, you know what I mean? Unless I, you know, take the eye and I kind of bury the eye in the back, and who knows, maybe it has eyes in the back of its head, you know what I mean? So it's your creation. When you're doing this, test it out. See what you know, what might be kind of cool to look. I probably will make it a little bit more large praying mantis, and then if I do that, I'm going to really start to emphasize maybe the cheekbone areas to sharpen this up, bring this out a little bit more, and then define for the mouth area and the nose. As I'm trying to do almost like a crisscross, guys, like an X. I'm trying to center the eye onto in between this. This is kind of a dead spot right now, so I'm trying to figure out how to make your eye flow around on the design. Yeah, Venom is a good one. It's like Venom has huge eyes, and it's usually pointed down, and then, you know, it's leading your eye back. I'm kind of making, I might make this a little more concave and pull back, and I'm going to use this to echo this shape that I've got right here, and then this line could be connected to kind of bring it up around from here. Okay, so now I'm just kind of trying to to define. Yes, I know. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog whining behind me. And I'm going to make another section. I'm going to use this sectional line to kind of push that back a little bit more. And then that way I can kind of use that to get more of that angered look. Let me pull these back. Now I'm really, you know, jumping and moving these things quite a bit from the actress that I started from. And a lot of people ask me, like, you know, do you decimate it and do the whole thing? Yes, at a certain point in time, if I'm losing, because I am tossing these forms around here, I'm changing a lot of the shapes, and it's getting really messy with my lines, and at that point in time I need to kind of go back and work the face again. But for right now I am still kind of playing. I'm not too sure about that. Let me see. Okay, let's get the jaw going. I'm going to strengthen this jaw and these lines. Stout fella is asking, how do you balance the proportion of the big shapes and the small shapes? Do you explore until you find what pleases the eye? Yes. I am pushing. I am looking for something that balances, and so yeah, right now I'm kind of going, if this eye is too big, how do I balance it? Does it feel correct? Now I might have to sit there and say I need to pull it more towards the center to kind of help that balance a little bit, or because right now what I was trying to say, I'm having a lot of dead feel right here. I don't like this to where the eye goes directly into the middle of the face. So I need to kind of maybe bring some forms that go up to divide and then lead your eye. This is what I was talking about, the eyes leading, you know, some of the shapes. I can then use this shape to kind of separate, and then maybe I'm making to where these become, you know, the brow. I can even, you know, make this kind of like, okay, he's more insect, I'm going to throw antennas back up there. I don't know about that. I'm still thinking alien, but I'm thinking satellite eye alien. I'm trying to, sorry, my dog is whining. So let me get rid of those eyes for a second and clean up this, because I want to add some detail to the ocular region. And so I'm kind of, now that I've built up that little section, I can kind of see where the eye is going to set. So now I want to kind of make sure that I'm kind of detailing out where that eye will set. And I'm probably going to do a couple different eye sections within here. So it's almost kind of like it's going to be a shutter, you know. And I'm losing details, so I have to go up. This is where, you know, kind of defined out those details, so I've got to go up in my level just because I've lost it in the lower one because I'm moving it so much. And so here I'm going to bring this tear duct out into some of my shapes, and I might wrap this back up. Okay. And let's go ahead and do another tear duct. Again, I'm using, as in the eye, everybody has the tear duct. You know, I'm taking these shapes to make it alien. I might just kind of say there's more than one. By adding that extra one, it gives it an odd look. It's based on reality, but I'm actually taking and just adapting it to my own thing and seeing what I want to do. So that is what I'm talking about. I'm building on shapes that are consistent to humans, but I'm changing these enough to do whatever. So right now, I'm also getting some interesting shapes inside, so who's to know, I might actually use the inside of the eye that I wasn't intending because the eyeball was going to hide it up, but maybe I might pull back to where, like I said, I was a satellite. I might sink it even further back to kind of give me a couple layers of interest. By me just trying it out takes a second, and that's part of what you should do. Never just kind of like, you know, I have an idea, great to go down that direction, but if you see a side road, you know, maybe you just check it out. Take a second to see what it might happen, you know, because you might have success down that road. You might go down and figure out it's a dead end, you know, as, you know, like a metaphor, whatever, but you know, go back to it. So now I have these. I'm going to, as you see this cheekbone, I'm going to try to give this a little bit more interest. And I'm doing the sharpness, and I'm going to bury this eyelid underneath here. And again, I'm picking up. So this guy is pretty much a study on the eye. Okay. And the only brushes, I don't know if you guys are seeing, I'm just using the standard move, trim dynamic, pinch, flat, clay, my in flat, and my dam standard. Those are the only brushes I really use. I try to stay basic, so everybody kind of, you know, if they do watch this and they do try some of these techniques, it's just I want it to be easy. It doesn't necessarily have to be this exact brush to do this. Just try to create, relax, don't stress. Because like I said, art should be fun. And if it's not, then I would say you're doing it wrong. So, alright, so I'm using the ear that was kind of created, but I'm kind of creating this weird spiral, couple earlobe section. And then pulling up from that. Right now, my dynamic is turned on. If you ever want to try to see what it might, you know, if it works better at 35, you might try to push it to even higher. Okay, now that I got some of these shapes going and I'm happy with this, I'm going to take some of these shapes and try to bring them down here and bring your flow. So if you kind of see I'm starting to bring, you don't want to overdo it necessarily, but you want to kind of try to help some of those shapes. So I'm going to get rid of some of the neck. I'm going to get rid of this hair, go down a couple of layers, get rid of some of that hair. Okay. Any other questions besides Southfiller asked? Please just ask questions as much as possible. A little bit lower numbers today too, so a lot more people I think will have a chance to ask. Okay. Now when we get to color, this is going to kind of change again. That can kind of really, you can go back to it and play with the sculpt if the color's kind of got some interesting shapes to it. You can define it a little bit more. Sometimes I do that, which I'll show in the PolyPaint. Let me bring this little X shape going a little bit more. So you see that little X? I'm going to define that out. Okay. And I'm using that X to kind of define the back of the ear. Wrap it around. Let's go ahead and flat that a little bit. And let's sharpen, flatten. You need to have a few areas of flat surface to really kind of help shape some of the more interesting shapes of the rounds and flow of the character. And then I'm going to take some of this division. Let me go up in a layer so you can see. I'm going to just kind of carry this down through the nose. And let's do this. Let's turn it back up into the eye. Into the nose, I'm sorry guys. And I don't know if you guys can see my dog's kind of scratching the couch up. Alright, so I'm going to, let's pinch this a little bit more. because I want to use this to kind of lead the eye up and around till it picks up the higher brow up here. And maybe just use some of the inflat to, no, I'm starting to get that insect by doing that. Yeah, see, Infinite's a ET. Trying to take it away from ET, so let's do this. And that's the typical of when you have the big eyes. And honestly, that kind of even makes it worse. No, this is what I started out to say, Infinite, that it's like once you start doing the big eyes and the shape. I mean, E.T., from what I can remember, was very, you know, like this shape. So it's close. And then it had big eyes, but it didn't quite have as big as eyes as I was planning to do. All I did, guys, is I'm just pulling this just to try the shapes out. Try it just to see what kind of looks, because you could always do the undo button. So again, I pulled those back in. I don't, because I was trying to use some of that shape that I started building in there. Like, let's say if these eyes were, well, here. What would the eyes be? You know, would it look less ET if I reduce the eyes down? I think that helps. Or let's say maybe it has duplicate eyes, you know. And kind of pick up, or horns coming from its eyes. I mean, you know, you can just try a bunch of different things to see. This is where you can start seeing if you're picking up some things that you like in a shape, or you are, you know, like if I don't want to do ET, I need to kind of go away. Either I need to destroy the main shapes that kind of pull into a lot of the thoughts, because, but here's the thing, no matter what you do, people are going to see different things within your shapes. That's part of it, because we as humans, I think we recognize certain shapes and flow, and we kind of associate with it. So, hey, how's it going, Doug? He's asked me if am I going to be dressing up the typical Target costumes or dress them up myself. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to go Target, to be quite honest. So because it's a pain. I don't know if you guys see, I have that, there's a cemetery plot behind me. That's where I actually have like a little projector that I project onto this witch that I make that from Atmos Effects, where the witch talks to the kids and stuff like that. And it's just a lot of work. And what I'm finding that the more I do for Halloween, the neighbors around me stop doing Halloween stuff, because they just end up at my house at the end and have a big party and destroy my yard. And they just let the kids go, and it's like a theater, and the kids just watch as they break my stuff. Which I'm happy to do that for the kids, but it's getting kind of like, it's a lot of work. I had a couple projects as well, so I didn't get a chance to do as much stuff. I still might do some things, but he wants to go, I think, as Link this year, Doug. So figure it's all done. So let's say, getting away from the ET, let's just say if I might have it to where it's kind of like insect, to where the eye, it's almost like a light bulb kind of thing within this little socket. So we're playing off the satellite, and again, I'm fighting the ET, so I'm going to make it, I'm going to go to the strange. I'm going to start pulling away from that, which is good because I'm exploring. I'm taking up certain things that people relate to, and then I'm going to kind of start messing with it just to kind of fight E.T. It's a good movie. If you guys haven't seen it, it's gonna be sad. It's like Old Yeller. You'll cry. And then, so okay, I think that's helping. That's helping me. So let's just say that he kind of just has like a little section, and that way I get some of that interest back in the ocular socket. But it still kind of pulls away from the dreaded ET. Alright, so once I did that, I said satellite, but let's try kind of maybe I'm going down to my lower levels, guys, just to try it really quickly. Since I have this, I'm just pushing and pulling really quickly just to see if I like any of the design elements that is being created. Still not. So let me go back. Maybe just pull these down just a little bit more. Oh, thanks, SiteFX. I appreciate it. That dragon that he's talking about, I actually did create it for a kit. I was having some problems with all those little tiny spikes to make them kind of come through. So I'm going to reprint it out again, and I found like a really talented guy that I think will be able to help make that guy come alive. So, and I should have it available for Monsterpalooza this year. I'm going to probably bring that guy back, because there's quite a few guys that I think would do an awesome job painting that. Okay. Mortar saying, "Oh, project a text message saying Epic will turn off Fortnite." Yeah, kids will go in panic. I guess they probably would. I think they're. I mean, believe me, I work in games, guys, and I have a tendency to not let my little one play too many games. I barely play games, to be quite honest, but because usually I'm working on something. But okay, so I have this eye socket. Let's go ahead and just bring that eye socket down even more. Okay. So when I try those shapes, it's just to sit there and see if I have a happy accident. I'm trying to find some of those details that kind of will help the form. Because again, I'm combating with one little section here. I'm not liking this front section to where the eye will sit. It's getting better because it's sort of like it's almost like a drop in the water. It's like it's kind of rippling out. So I have a shape that is kind of rippling, which helps bring it back in. And so I'm trying to lead the eye here and trying to bring it back around. These little folds and stuff, these little pockets, I think I need to have a balance. So I'm going to, meaning I'm just going to have a place to rest, because I was having too much of those happen. That is going to help right there. So let me detail out the mouth here a little bit, section. So if I'm going to pull here, and I might add some interest. Going straight across to pick that up. I'm trying to bring in some straight forms. I need to have a few forms that are not so round. I need to maybe flatten out this little skin, not make it as puffy. And then for the outer eye section, I might have to kind of just say this is where the bone is just slightly underneath the skin. I can have the fat folds of the skin here. I can kind of add some puffiness to the eye. I can do all that because we kind of assume there's not going to be any kind of bone right underneath it. But as we know, like in our cheekbone areas, like this is tighter skin going across because of the bones hitting it. So we need to kind of probably pick up a few of those areas. Again, I'm trying to bring in a few areas of realism from anatomy to kind of build up. And this character is nothing like a human, you know what I mean? But I've taken it from the actress to kind of make it to where, like, you know, I can't even tell what sex this is, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to play off of a few things from that initial actress, but then create something entirely different from her. So yes, Mortar, happy trees, man. I'm looking for the happy trees in this. All right. He brought up Bob Ross. So that's I'll never be as happy as he was, but he, you know, it's the same thought. It's just have fun. Don't worry about what the hell you're creating. Because here, guys, if I end up having a crappy creature, I'll just say that's a lesson. You know what I mean? You know, everything's a lesson in art. As long as you just learn something, that's your job is done. Because there's so much junk, you know, folders that you guys will never see of things that I wasn't successful in my mind, successful on. But I have gone back to those and pulled back out the thoughts, because this is all this. All I'm doing is I'm just having thoughts. I'm trying to. ET came in, and now I'm fighting against ET. It's my thoughts how to do that, how to get away from that, how to kind of bring in my own interpretation of, you know, if I was designing ET for Spielberg, what might I have done, you know? But in my film, ET would have been killing the kids instead of playing with Reese's Pieces with them or whatever. So, because my monsters are usually a little bit more vicious. Okay, that's working a little bit better. I'm going to probably, even though, again, we don't see a lot of the back of the creatures that I do. I mean, I'm always aware that whenever you're doing a creature, it's going to be looked at all different parts. I mean, for this, I'm pretty much just going to take a snapshot of this and just have very little. I'm not as concerned with the back. But if I was fleshing out this design, I am thinking about 360 degrees. This little X is kind of coming to a point of the top of the cranium here. So I might have some of the skin kind of connect. And it's almost going away from that design, leading down to the neck. You know, to where like maybe this is even, you know, goes into the veins. I mean, you can push and play with, you know, lines in the head, or leading lines of your forms, and then get something interesting. If you have something successful in the front, try to bring that into the back. One, you've already kind of fought to figure out that form, but you know, it's also consistency throughout the character. It's believable to keep it going. In my highest level, I have still some of the scan data in Sky Phobia, but I'll be going over top of it with Alpha. And I do have a tendency to blend out a few things, but I go down. The reason I go up and down on my levels too is like if I blend out a form like this, when I go back up, a lot of that form you see is still there. And that's what's great, to kind of just get rid of, to go up a level or two and just wipe out a few of those forms. So when you go up to the top level, you still will have a little bit of detail, but it's reduced. So I do wipe out some of the skin details. She was wearing like a cap, and she had hair at the bottom. I'm taking those out because on this one I didn't use any of that. So I don't know. You could be the first mourner to have a portfolio of just nothing but back of the heads. Okay, so alright, now I'm just kind of quickly jotting down some of my shapes. I'm very low, so if you notice when I go back up, I could either just emphasize a few of those shapes that I liked, or just left them how they were. And I'm just kind of thinking, it's some of her skin folds here, I'm just kind of bringing back and around. Okay. And again, just these are thoughts. That's all I'm thinking about right now, is just what's working, what's not. Do I like that nose? If I don't like that nose, do I want to wipe it out? You know, do I want to sit there and maybe just take it out entirely, see what that looks like. Becomes more turtle. I think I'm going to stick with that nose, but I might play with it just a little bit more as a teardrop. And just maybe bring a couple levels. Thank you, Rename. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. So like once you have some of these shapes, like I'm playing with it. I'm taking this shape right here, and just kind of just trying to bring some of the, you know, within the eyes, I did a couple of layers. So in the back of the head, I just wanted to sit there and go, well, maybe I just need to do a couple extra skin layers that will, in a way, you see in this form of this alien. So it's almost kind of like a really wrinkly old person, you know what I mean? You have layers of layers of layers of skin, and the crow's feet and all kind of stuff. That will help you pull into the design. I think on the mouth is the one thing that's bothering me. I want to probably make this a little bit more extended, because I have this jawline, and if you see, I have the reverse jawline. So here's the hump jaw, here's the hump jaw. I'm changing, you know, I'm using some of those forms and those shapes, and just looking to add, once I have those strong shapes helping out the forms, then I can add, I'm starting to go up into my secondary forms, guys. I laid out the base level of what I like, and then I'm going to start slowly defining and changing what's going on. Now I have a shape coming in this direction. You see it here and you see it there. It's a little too busy. Remember, I kind of reduced in here. I need to do that again. So I need to have some areas of interest that kind of let the eye rest and pick back up again. Just like in painting and just like Rembrandt's, a lot of the stuff, they had areas of interest, and they always had things that led your eye around. On a 3D form, sculptural, you know, Michelangelo, all those, Bernini, all those guys just had a lot of the busy details, and then they had areas of rest, and it kind of picked up in softness, and you know. So I think for this one, if I'm going to either, I wipe out that little section to either surround it by some area of interest, or I start to reduce and take it out to where it leads your eye up, which I think is a little bit more successful. So quick sweeps of just testing out really helps. And I'm going to kind of probably bring in, kind of just soften down some of that sharp and bring this down a little bit more. Even though I'm not really concerned about, I mean, it's more of just a neck that I'm working on up. Oh, yes, Mortars also, thank you again, buddy, for putting out that information. That's where you guys can reach me. You can find different stuff on all of us. Please visit, you know. I appreciate everybody dropping me a line, and then, you know, I'm more than open to helping and asking questions beyond this. So, yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, guys, inside of X, I'm glad it's working for you. It's just a lot of artists face the problem where they're really worried about how it's going to turn out. Does it have to be good? If you kind of give up and just say, I don't know, and I'm just going to do and just have some fun, a lot of times you'll be more successful than you ever kind of like, if you know, freak out. You know, it's like I said, if this doesn't turn out as successful, I might not like this. Someone might like this, you know, and that's all that matters. It's more of just trying to find and explain to you guys some of my thought processes of a creature, and it's not, you know, I'm not going, it's like, oh, I'm going to create the next major creature. No, I wasn't planning to. If I come up with something I really like, great. You know, that's, I did this more to start pushing myself on polypainting, which I hate painting. I'm not very good at it. It's something that kind of, it's sort of like, you know, if I would tell students, if you don't like something, do it over and over again, and then it's a lot easier to say than actually do. So I finally like started putting up and shutting up and trying to practice when I teach. So so that's pretty much where this stuff started coming from, of me doing this. Okay, so I've got most of that going. I'm going to bring in the cheeks a little bit more as well. And I think I might just emphasize the skull, kind of like there's like a little, where that eye sets, you know what I mean? Like it's you know, like in a skull you have the hollow behind it, so I'm almost picking up and having this become more of a bone section to pull over. Yeah, no red wax. It's like no wire hangers, no red wax. Again, I'm showing my age. That's a quote from a very old movie, guys. Okay, so now that I have, let's bring that down a little bit more just so I can see that bottom of the underneath the eyes to show more of that light bulb type eye. I'm going to hide that the eyeballs really quickly to dig in. As you see right here, this is where that eye is sitting. So as I go in here and go up in levels, I can go into that detail and define this a little bit more. Skyphobia is asking, have you ever had a design that a client liked but you didn't like? Yes, plenty of times, but I've learned in my lesson to where I never show a client something I don't like, because they'll usually choose that. But again, they're the client, so early on I had somebody tell me, why don't I make pretty things, and you know, because I don't want to, but if a client pays me to, then I will do as many pretty things as you want. So it's this is where, you know, you have to decide, you know, the difference between, you know, what you do in your own free time, because a lot of the competitions, everything I did was on the side after my over my day job or other jobs I was carrying. Then I would just start creating for fun, and that's where I kind of go, well, if it turns out, it turns out. If it doesn't, then it's for me. You know, I'm learning as well. So, but yeah, if you're working for a client and you don't think something is successful, you could explain it to them. But sometimes, like I said, some people are going to like things that you just don't think work for whatever reason. You can tell them, you know, aesthetically it's not going to be pleasing. It doesn't flow very well, and you can sit there and say this is more successful. But if they don't register it, if they just don't see it, and then they go, I like this, there's no reason why they have to give you. They like that. So if you're doing something for a client that you know you're going to be working on a long time, try to avoid showing them something you don't think is successful, because more times than not you're going to be doing that piece. So, and it's also kind of funny if you have a contract that says, I will do this many sketches to flesh out the design, but after this number 7, you know, I'll give you 7 sketches, but after that, the 8th sketch is going to start being $100 per. You'll be amazed that on the 7th sketch, it's perfect, because people don't want to sit there and pay past a certain point, but they will always take it for free. That's what the problem with a lot of artists is, that they want to give their work free, which you should never do. If you're giving your artwork for free because someone says, oh, I'm going to sit there and promote you or whatever, it's just do it for yourself, because then you're not under any rights of, you know, that you have to get their permission to show, and of course you probably can showcase it just as well as they can, especially now with the days of Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, blah blah blah. I mean, the access that new artists have to showcase their work is amazing compared to what it was when I was first starting out in the field. So I wish you'd give me a comment for a sculpt. Side effect, just drop me the picture of what you're talking about after I'm done, and I'll give you some feedback, so if you want. And guys, I try to be as harsh as possible. You know, I try to not be harsh as possible. I should say that differently. I try to be as honest as possible to give you guys an idea of what people are seeing, or what my expertise is saying. And because I've developed my eye over years, I'm still developing it, but that's the biggest thing. And I've noticed a lot of people are worried about saying something to a student or to somebody about their portfolio because they don't want to hurt their feelings, which I think is not fair, because then they'll send out their portfolio looking for a job, and if they can't see or understand what's going wrong with their portfolio because someone doesn't want to be fair and honest with them, then they're never going to get that job. So I'd rather somebody see what I'm seeing, and then kind of, you can agree with it, you don't have to agree with it. That's how I approach. I try to be as honest. One of my favorite teachers was Alan Koberback, and he would walk up and down. We would have our illustrations up on the wall, and he would kind of walk by and he like, crap, shit, whatever, and just knock people's stuff over. You know, just to kind of, because he was being really harsh. He was pretty harsh. But the thing is, like, and he would always go, in a lot of my pieces, he would always explain where an area was successful and where I messed up and what was working and what wasn't. It was just very, interesting to see how he was seeing it, because I was like, oh, okay, I got it. After I suffered, which is how I teach as well. I make the students suffer, do the work, not do the work for them, and then that way, then I'll go back over top and say, this is how I'd approach it, or this is what I'm seeing, just so they understand, working on that project. Instagram. Well, I'm saying side effects that, well, you can drop me, just email me. You can just drop me an email at bbriley@bbriley.com, or, through all those different ones that Mortar listed where I'm at. Whatever's comfortable for you, I'll try to find it. And I'll give you some feedback. So right now, I'm looking at this character upside down. It's just sort of like looking in the mirror. I'm seeing some things, some shapes. I'm going to define the iris a little bit more. I think I'm going to sharpen this jaw. And see how the neck is kind of connected to it? I want to kind of probably bring that jaw out just a little bit. And I'm now looking at all the different directions so I can kind of define this satellite dish eye section here. I'm looking at the shapes, kind of trying to make them smooth and flow a little bit better. Okay, might. Okay. All right. So now that I have most of that defined, I'm going up on my higher levels here. This got really pushed right now, so let me go ahead and save just in case, and I'm going to kind of show you how I would kind of redo this guy really quickly. So I've lost a lot of the defining facial details and stuff from this character, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a clone. When I make that clone, it's going to bring me a fresh layer. I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer. I'm keeping this one, the highest level I have in my detail. It's about 1.1 million. I'm going to go down to geometry and into the Dynamesh area. I'm going to turn off blur, and I'm going to knock this down to 512. I don't need to carry all the high level details. I don't need to bring all that. I need to just bring it to where I'm capturing some of that detail. Okay, so this is a lot lower. So if you see right now, it's half of what that previous one. And then I'm going to go to ZBrush, and I'm going to make sure it goes down to about 1 should be good enough, and I have symmetry on it. And I'm just going to hit ZBrush. It's going to take a second. This is why I usually don't do it for a demo. Sometimes it can take a little bit long time. If you're having problems waiting, or there's something that's not quite working with computing, just go ahead and hit escape and try to get out of it. So as you see right now, there's my new ZBrush with the cleanup polys. Okay, I'm going to double check, make sure I have no holes, because sometimes you will have holes up here. That's just based on the Dynamesh being a little bit too thin in certain areas. And I'm going to just go to project. I'm keeping that original one. Here's my new one. So let's go ahead and just name this ZBrush. And I'm just going to go ahead and say project all. I'm going to divide it. I just did Control D to divide. As you see, my division levels went up. I'm going to project again. I divided it again. And I'm kind of working my way back up to those detail levels that I wanted to get. So I want to stop around level 5. Yeah, I'm about 1.5. Good enough. And then, because that's pretty much what my level is. Don't go to dividing this up to like 4 or 5 million and then projecting it from a 1.5 million. It does nothing for you. It's just a waste of time. So you just want to make sure you're just kind of keeping up to a pretty consistent levels of what you're pulling from. So if my original was 9 million polys, then yeah, I want to probably go up a little bit higher to gather any kind of detail that I have. Once I have this, I'm going to go back to my original. As you can see, my wires are kind of screwed up. See how pushed and pulled these are? And I'm just going to hit Insert. I'm going to go back to the ZBrush, okay? And then I'm going to start working from that new one, okay? So it's going to, yeah, the stream is freezing because I was actually Dynameshing pretty heavy too. So I should have said that. It kind of, It's my computer's going, I'm going to concentrate on this, forget the stream, so I apologize. By the Kong, just an hour. I've been talking and just going over stuff for about an hour in. So as you can see right now, I now have a lot better detail on all those little polygons between that one and this one, as you can see. So my detail level is going to be a lot better. So now what I'll do is I'll come back in and I'll just smooth out those details that are getting kind of pixelated. As you can see, I have a lot more of that detail. I now can come back in and sculpt and tweak up. I lost a little bit of this projection right down here. It's okay. Just going to fill that back out. So you go through and you just kind of fix any kind of area. And I'm on the highest level right now to blend out. And while I'm going over, I'm just taking a look to see if I see any kind of problems. Everything else looks pretty good. So now I can go back in and I have a lot more of that detail that I can kind of tweak out, because I built up my base form, so I've got some of my secondary forms out. Now I'm just going to add some more of my thought process to the tertiary details. So I'm going to define out how this eyelid goes. I'm now looking underneath, I'm finding different forms. Okay. And once I get to a happy level, I'm going to work on this mouth, just maybe like a little bit more to, let's split this mouth. Or just give some, maybe he's got the lips are kind of pulling away. And I want to kind of probably add some details like so. I'm just doing some quick in-flat details just to see. His mouth is kind of bothering me. Ooh. It looks like he's seen something really interesting. Let me bring back in those eyes, and I'm going to bring them up. Remember how I kind of said like the light bulb? Now I'm just going to kind of bring these. Okay. Hey, Doublegoon. Glad you joined us. Yeah, this is ZBrush is fantastic. It's one of my favorite programs by far. I've used a lot of programs and just love what you can kind of work from it and do with it. So let me go ahead and just make the lips a little bit more puffy. Okay. And I'm going to define some of my skin folds, how they're kind of working around. Again, I'm just kind of, it's like a river, guys. I'm just trying to find forms that kind of lead your eye around. Looking for some of those happy accidents. I'm going to pull this back in a little bit more, and I'm going to use the N flat button to brush whatever to kind of make this just a little bit heavier. If I go down in the levels, it works out a little bit more even. And I'm going to fix a few of these sections of the eye that's getting kind of wonky. Okay. Alright. And I think the thing is, like with this eye, I'm going to treat it as like a whole bunch of, like, maybe when it closes its eyes, you know, instead of just our eyes closing one lid, it might have like 3 or 4 different lids in a way. So I'm going to kind of make them a little bit more puffy as I'm thinking about this, like, you know, to help, you know, when I go to color, like maybe I might make it just a little bit more red inside of here to really define and kind of carry that eye in the back. because I want to bury it, give it for a reason for it to kind of be back there. Maybe for protection, maybe for, you know, I don't know. A lot of times you just have to kind of come up with some BS, and you know, it's like, why is this creature like this way? Oh, because, you know, this, and then that's just part of your storyline. But for the moment, I was just kind of, this character, I would say, not E.T. I was just trying to fight away from E.T. Do an alien with big eyes. It's E.T.'s second cousin, you know, removed or whatever. Who never phoned home. And so I'm just picking up some extra full detail lines, and I think I'm getting close to kind of maybe just doing some flesh details now. That will actually help define it. Yeah, don't sculpt with a mouse. Like I say, it's like painting with a brick. It doesn't work. So. Thank you, Rena. I appreciate it. And that's what I'm trying to look for. I'm just trying to look for some shapes that will build and help define others. I mean, it's like I said, if it's successful, you know, great. If not, I'm just trying to learn from what works, what doesn't. There's certain things I might like, and honestly, it's like if I, you know, I might like the way this back of the head works. So from this character, I might take it to use it for another character and go, I wasn't really digging this, you know, but maybe I might go back to it and say, you know what, maybe the eyes were just, you know, I need to push and pull them out, you know, a little bit more to change the way that this character looks, over exaggerate it, you know, to where it's more back to I don't know, there's a bug, I can't remember what the bug's called, but it has these really wide ocular, I don't know, they kind of shoot out and they look like teardrops and stuff like that. So maybe I go really crazy because I don't want to do ET. I'm gonna totally just make this guy even out a little bit more. Maybe he's got huge veins that then come from this one to kind of, you know, define the eye. And maybe you know, let's just say instead of this being the eye itself, maybe it's just a, you know, section, like kind of like a lobster, like, you know, they have the antenna kind of comes out and their eye is broken in that cavity from it, and so we're going to make it more towards it is, you know, maybe it's this section, and we've done a lot of the work in there, but maybe it's more towards like this type of eyelid, to where, because again, I'm trying to fight ET. Let's go strange. Let's just make it kind of, yeah, crab eyes, you know, let's just kind of, who knows. So let me just do a quick test on that to see how it kind of works. And then I go, well, let's just append another set of spheres. Okay. Subtool master the sucker mirror. Okay. Let's actually do this. Let's go to, so all I did there, guys, is I just was kind of giving it some detail so I can kind of see it a little bit more. So then I can kind of push and pull, you know, to make this like a little weird alien. Okay, so maybe I do that. Maybe I could sit there and say, well, how does that look? Do I like that? Do I not like that? Did I go too far? Do I need to shrink these suckers down on both of them and kind of... And I just held Alt and I kind of brought this in. I'm holding Alt for the other one. Let's shrink this down a little bit more. You know, so maybe, oops. Now, I didn't have symmetry on this, guys. That's why that went off. So, where'd they go? Okay, symmetry's on there. So all I'm doing is I'm just kind of pulling and pulling. And if you get off on asymmetry, just go ahead and hit the move tool, turn off the symmetry, hit this and hit home, and then that will kind of help bring it back to equal sections, and then you can kind of get him back on there. So he's looking a little bit more evil. He's looking a little bit more like I don't trust you kind of section. So I don't know. I mean, it's like, do you guys like that direction more or no? Should we keep that one, or all we have to do is just go, if we want to go back to the other one, just click on this one and turn those off, and then this one can be treated as just, that's the eye. And of course, let's go ahead and say, if we go back to our section, let's make it kind of like this funky. I'm going into my material, going into color, and I'm just going to say fill that object. So when I jump back off, you know, he has that. You can use reflection, color, material. So maybe those are kind of, you know, he looks cute. So I'm sort of leaning towards getting a little bit more toward he's mean. So he has those eyes. So even though I have that little ocular section back in there, kind of digging these crab eyes just a little bit. I think what I might do is just kind of make it look like it's kind of like true crab eyes, whatever. They kind of come out a little bit and they kind of think and look around, and then we'll go back in, and then that guy will have a couple different. Well, yeah, but here's the thing though, Cody. His eyes can go back in, and then he has 4 eyelids that actually close in for protection. See, I'm thinking. So, so I'm going to turn that off. So this is where I'm saying that the BS. I'm going to make it up to make it, you know, whichever. And that's part of art. Sometimes is like 70% BS. So you just got to make it up until it sounds good sometimes. So I'm going to kind of flesh out these eyes a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to make sure that those stalks kind of go down in there. And I might just kind of do a couple little like skin fold details. And I'm definitely going to probably do like, he's got some veinage. And I did a little too hard, so I'm going back down a level. I'm kind of reworking that. Okay. Clients decide, yeah. You guys as the clients decided the crab eye, so fine. That's the thing. I'm still not tempting to have you guys decide what creature to do, because it's kind of, that's opening up to too many voices. And then I got to tell you, committee by, you know, design by committee is never a good thing. All right, so I got the crab eyes. I think that works. It's a different direction. I'm going to save this one just in case. Double gum. I'm going to multi. Yeah, I know it's more towards the vid card. I mean, you would definitely want some nice RAM and stuff, but it's like I said, it's the most powerful. It's a phenomenal program. I highly suggest it. And if you purchase it, then you have it for life. So I used to do demos for them, and they would always give me updates and free license and stuff. But I bought it back quite a bit ago. Oh, also, if you guys have noticed this, like ever get it to where all of a sudden you're like, hey, where'd my thing go? Make sure dynamic is turned on, because it just, that's set up there to kind of make it a little bit easier for you it to be turned. Okay. So I'm just going to flesh out a few more things. Gonna neck up, build up the neck just a little bit. Let's give him some, because he's got a huge head. So let's give him a little bit of muscles to kind of use it, and then I'm going to kind of come in here and define his Adam's apple, some of the folds, and let's define some more of those. So he's almost got kind of like a chicken fold. Let's blend it just, maybe not so much of a chicken fold, but okay. All right. So now I'm going to start moving into alphas, guys. It looks pretty good. Not bad for an hour. My thing is, like, even if I didn't turn out something I'm sort of like, I still got to sculpt for an hour, and that's the beauty of, I think, what we do. So now that I have this, you can, if you want to test out, there's a few different ways. I could either make a duplicate, which a lot of times I have a tendency to make a duplicate. I snapshot in time, because then I can go to different directions. Remember where I said you're going down a road, just taking a quick road to the right to see where it goes, might be a dead end, but I might come back to it later and they've opened it up. You know what I mean? Because I'm coming at a different day, different eye. A lot of times in my files I'll have a couple of different splits. Or what you could do is you could put a layer, go down to the layer section right here, and you can add a layer. I have a tendency to kind of stick away from layers because I've had some problems where I've had some corruption in my files. That's a user error on my part, just somehow I'm doing something not correct. But that's a good one. You could also do morph targets where you store morph targets and stuff. Yeah, Aliens Atom Apple. Cody, you have to have it. I mean, who's to say? Maybe he's got a huge one. You know, and again, I just pushed it. I pulled it. Could I like it? Could. This is where levels come in really great. Or layers come in. If I'm going to go ahead and just make this layer, if I go ahead and push it out, then I can actually just go back and say, well, maybe not so much. There, he's breathing, guys. I'm doing animation. He's alive. Okay, that's what layers are really good for, because it's like if I go, no, I don't like that one, just go ahead and just delete. Or if you create another layer, you could always just say, I want to try a couple different things. You can go down in your levels on layers, and I can sit there and say, well, what would he look like with a big brain? What would he look like with a bigger section and an Adam's apple? Okay, if I go back up into this layer, I have that. I actually kind of dig that, to be quite honest. I'm like, okay, it's pretty cool. I can see some different shapes. I might keep that layer. Or I can sit there and say, well, what if he looks like, you know, in between these sections, or even go even more, you know. This is where you can quickly try different things to see. Snapshot it, go on and redefine it. This guy is now not ET. Screw ET. He's out the window now. I've got something completely different, even though I was fighting that at the beginning. So this is where you can kind of play around with those different layers, where I couldn't do it on a snapshot. You know what I mean? When I was taking just a snapshot up above, I am now able to sit there and try a couple different things. So I like this. So I might go just maybe like this, just a little bit. Kind of brings into the bug section. Let's try 1.2. Yeah, 1.4. Good enough. Okay. Once I have 1.4, like it, and again, you could always turn that off to see where I was at. But once I have this, I can just quickly, on this one with this layer, make a duplicate. Okay, turn that off. I can still keep this layer on here. I have to either turn record back on, or I could just delete this layer. Oops, sorry. Bake this layer. And now I have a snapshot of this new guy in this new direction. This one has my layer on it. This one is now new and baked. And so I can come back in here and go up and down my levels and kind of fix some of those issues on here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of take some of that different direction. And I'm just going to kind of treat this as some veinage separation. Do some skin directions. So now it looks like this. Okay. Done. Okay. I'm going up on different layers. So now that I have this, I'm moving in this direction. So again, I've changed it quite a bit from what it started out as. And now Cody says this from Independence Day. Damn! Can't get away from these things. Aliens, you've seen so many of them, that's the problem. Alright, he's E.T. and the alien guy from Independence Day had a baby. There you go. Okay. Next movie is done, if they ever decide to go those two directions. But alright, so let's stop. I can't get away. Can't get away. Kind of looks like he's got like his arms kind of. Let me just play with this just a little bit. I don't have to pick up my little one today, so I can draw a little bit longer. Okay. So I'm right at 1.4. That's good enough, guys, for the detail. If I'm really worried about not having, if I'm going to start going into the alphas and stuff, and I'm not seeing a lot of those layers or a lot of detail that I need, then I could just easily divide. But for right now, I'm just going to kind of start on my layers of alpha. Okay, I'm not going to make any kind of sectional layers. I'm not going to do any kind of tricks. I'm just going to go straight onto it and try it. How I start out, I just go ahead and I get the drag stroke, and I'm just going to go ahead and select and import in an alpha. Within my little sections of, I have, you know, just a section of alphas that I'm just going to pull from. I kind of grab. I have a picture file that has gigabytes worth of crap that I can go through. So, how's it going, Charles? Yes, more like alien humanoid crabbish. Yes, trying to. You can keep going on that one. I'm going to start out this way. I usually have a tendency to continuously go back to my elephant texture, so I'm going to use that as the first layer of my skins to kind of play with, and then I'm going to kind of build upon more of the details on that. So usually my Z-add 25 intensities is the default that I'm usually been sculpting in, but for my adding of alphas, I'm going to start out a little bit lower and just test them out. And so when you kind of pull it, some of, as you see right there, that again, when I pulled that up, when I made this guy a lot larger, all those polys that were defined enough to keep that detail got really stretched. So I can go back and I can go through and decimate this guy again and show you the Z-remesh trick. Of course, it shuts down the stream. So I'm realizing right now it doesn't have enough detail, so I have to go up one more level. So right now I'm hanging about 6 million. So now when I put out that detail, I have enough. I'm going to bring this down a little bit more, just to see what I get. And I'm not liking that elephant skin, so again, I'm just going to go back and I'm looking for some nice alphas to help define my skin. Okay. Alright. And I'm going to use the skin detail to kind of start building in a directional line of where natural skin would go. Not too sure, Charles. There's a hell of a lot, that's for sure. It's probably one of the most used programs, I think, now. They do a great job promoting, and I know a lot of, I mean, it's used in the movies, games, jewelry, printing. I mean, they've got a lot of great great resources on what they're used for, and the fact that they don't charge for updates is phenomenal. So I honestly don't know how they do that. So okay, so now I'm kind of building up some of this skin level, and I'm turning it around on the direction of how I think the head would kind of go, or the skin would fall. Again, I'm playing off, you know, some of the how it would look naturally. Was that a human? Let it save. Yeah, alien crab beast. I mean, honestly, it's whenever you start in these things, who knows what the hell you get sometimes. And I knew, all I said, I'm just going to do like kind of like a satellite eye monster, whatever, just a atypical alien, to be quite honest, big-eyed aliens, you know, the greens or whatever they call them, grays, all that kind of stuff. But then once I started going into it, I saw E.T. That was my experience from my childhood of seeing an alien for the first time, and then I started fighting against it. Hence the reason I started going more praying mantis, insect, crab, because I was trying to make a pissed off E.T. But I actually sort of kind of dig this guy. I mean, he's not bad. He's still kind of in the cute range, I guess. And then, you know, that's where you put a bunch of teeth and stuff in him. Or I could actually go back in and I just start making spikes everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, don't mess with me, to make him a little bit more vicious. if I'm not liking the stuff. Yeah, Paul's he's phenomenal. I don't know how. Honestly, him and Joseph and those guys over there, I don't know how they keep all this information in their heads. It's pretty ridiculous. Because when I get stuck, I usually ask for some help, and I'll, like, I was one example of what the hell to do, and he'll give me like 5, and so it's very frustrating. Because then I'm like, choices. I don't know which one to do. I just want to, I just want to sculpt. So the reason I sculpt very simple too is because I can't retain that crap in my head. But I try to make it easy, honestly, for students, so they don't get overwhelmed with all the awesome details that things that ZBrush can do. Okay, I'm kind of aware that the inner eyelids right here, I kind of got some of my stamp. You could just go ahead and scrub that away by using whatever the soften. I'm just holding down my shift button to go to my soft edition to knock that out, because I want to have some areas that will have skin detail and some areas that won't. So I'm just using one elephant skin right now. That seems to work pretty well. This is one of my favorite ones out of the ones I have from him. But on the areas that I have a little bit more, let's say on this little section right here, his eyes have been, open and closed so much, he'll probably have a little bit more different detail or a little rougher detail. And on the chin underneath there, I might put some tougher skin. So let's go ahead and let's pull to some pores or whatever. The labyrinth. See, Blue Rose is thinking labyrinth. It's like I can't remember labyrinth. I remember you're talking David Bowie. Labyrinth. So I'm gonna take this one and use this texture to kind of add some little extra roughness to the side of the skin where I've got some of that detail, and I'm gonna probably put it to some of the areas down here. Now, this is where different alphas will have different layers or levels, so I might have to go up to a little higher level for this alpha where the other one was working fine, because I want to kind of give it some extra really rough skin to the side. Now again, what I could do, if this is too high of a detail or getting too rough, I can just go down a couple of levels, and I'm just going to soften out that little section, and when I come back up, it softens out that detail. I can still on that level kind of knock it out if I want. That allows me to kind of keep some of that detail without wiping it totally away. So that's a pretty busy. I don't know if I like that one. This is kind of, and I'm also fighting the direction of it, so. It's kind of giving some weird effect, but almost kind of looks like he's got some extra warts or. Let's just rough this sucker out just a little, see what it looks like. And this is where, if I was just kind of really concerned about how it's looking, if I wanted to do certain layers, I could actually have an alpha layer on that one, but I'm not really worried about it. I'm plain. Okay, so all right, I like some of that detail. I'm gonna go down. I'm just gonna wipe it away a little. Come up one more layer, wipe it away a little. So I have some of it, but not too much of it. I'm going to probably go down one level again and wipe it away. So I have some of that detail creeping into my design, but not too much of it to where it's overtaking it. Okay. And let's go ahead and try one more alpha before we get to painting. So before we start getting into the fun. Let's see. I might try to bring in some human skin elements like pox or some crow's feet for the eyes, something to kind of define. I'm going to bring in this to kind of maybe define extra one. So this, you can turn up the intensity. Now some alphas, if you notice, when you put them down, they'll be in the addition. You might have to hold down Alt to actually just go into the negative. So that's a little too harsh. I'm not liking that as much as I thought. Yeah, protect. Yeah, Mortar, you can do layers if you want to protect those details. Like I said, I believe in just trying it and wiping it away if you don't like it, instead of, because if you start building up a bunch of layers and details, it gets very confusing and gets muddy. So I have a tendency to just try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Again, I'm not really concerned about this being the end-all alien. I'm just having fun. And that's what you guys should do. It's like, if you just try to have some fun with it, I don't think you'll be as worried, and you're just exploring. Okay, so because that's what a lot of artists do. They just get so worried about what they're creating, they have to create the best thing, that they don't ever create anything because they're so worried about even starting. All right, I think it's good enough. Good enough. Happy with them. Let's start poly painting. Okay, and again, as I'm poly painting, I might come back into my sculpt. I'm going to probably play. Just because I'm done in one area and I move on to another doesn't mean I don't come back to it. I'm going to turn off the M. I'm going to go to RGB. I'm going to turn off the Z add, make sure it's that. Please make 480p if possible. Hudex, I don't have any ability to do that. Sorry, I'm just kind of streaming. I'm learning how to stream and talk and Twitch and all that kind of crap. So I'm an older guy. This is all voodoo to me, man. It's all magic. Okay, so now that I have this color and stuff, I'm going to probably kind of figure out what I want to kind of do. The eyes are pretty important, but maybe I'm going to figure out what kind of skin tones and colors that I want to bring from this guy. So you guys got any ideas for color for this character? I mean, the atypical is green. We could go towards kind of the grays. We can go maybe towards the browns. Auto has me on 1080p, so you must be on your side. Okay, Pro's trying to help you out. Yeah, I appreciate if you guys know more of the tech kind of stuff to kind of just throw it out. So on this one, I've done reds, blues, that kind of stuff. I maybe go more towards the oranges. And again, this is a lot of your color theory that goes into, guys. You got the complementary color. I can bring blues in with these oranges. I can, you want to kind of stick to certain things. If I go more towards the green and stuff, I'm going to go more towards insect. Crab or lobster, yeah, Pro, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm kind of going to orange, reds, that kind of stuff. Not more towards the reds because that's devil, you know what I mean? You kind of want to touch upon, certain colors that you're like, if you borrowed certain ideas, I borrow the eyes from the crab kind of thing, or insects, I'm kind of pulling to it. So those are some colors I might want to base on some realistic items, creatures. But again, I'm alien, so I can actually just play and I can kind of start creating off my own direction. I know I probably want to bring in some like reds or something to where, like the normal, to bring the eyes, because I'm building up those sockets. But even if I bring in more purples and blues, having more of an orange tone skin might work kind of. Maybe go a little tad like brown orange. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to find my base color, okay? I want to kind of go dark because I actually go dark and I build on my layers. It's what the masters used to do. It's just layering. It's not, I did not create this. I'm just going off of what, what was done before me. But just kind of trying to, this works for me. This is how I kind of see colors as well, because I'm slowly building it up. I'm going to go ahead and just pick a side alpha. I usually go towards like a nice pocky breakup alpha. So when I lay it down, when I'm building my blends together, it's not just one straight color. My RGB intensity 2 is 100. I want to knock that down to about 40s. I want to build up. If I go for one straight color, this is it. It doesn't allow me to build and blend. And that's the thing with realism. It's like you're kind of seeing these dermal and subdermal layers of the skin, and you're seeing the blood vessels and the flesh, and you're seeing all the mixtures of colors. It's sort of like when you have a window open and on your wall you have varied colors. You know what I mean? That's because the sun is bouncing off all the leaves in the sky, and it's bringing all these different colors. Same thing with skin. We are trying to build up. So usually how I do it with RGB, I'm just going to go ahead and just, well, okay, for this one, if I'm going to start from a certain base color, I'm going to say color, fill object. Okay, so now it's RGB, it's 100. Bring this down. So now I'm building up on my layers. So I'm going to go up a little bit higher. As you notice right there, if I can still see this switch, that means I did not properly say color, fill object. Okay, I'm on this one, color, fill object. So what I did is I just hit Alt and I'm jumping. Okay, so right now on this layer 2, you see the dark bar underneath. That's the layer I'm on. So you see this color right here. It's solid color. That means it's on there. So whenever I switch color, I'm not losing that. Okay, if I want to pick up this color again, I could just go ahead and hit C, and I can pick up that color to get back to the original color. I'm at 40%-ish, and I'm going to start dragging and building my layers. I'm doing it slowly, softly, and what I'm doing is like I'm going to be looking for highlights of where the skin varies. If you want to, you could also go to color spray if I don't want to do the drag, and this just allows me to kind of gently, softly bring in some different various colors within this section. It's picking from a whole bunch of colors all around. I'm going to go a little bit lighter because I want to kind of go a little bit more desaturated. I'm going to start kind of building up. I have a tendency, I just like to do the pulls. So I'm kind of just trying to find, as you can see right there, as I'm pulling out, you see how it kind of goes a little bit pocky? It's kind of mixing in with that color underneath. Okay? And I'm going to kind of just start to bring out those certain areas that will touch. When I get into this one, into the eye section, I'm going to probably just stay away from because I'm going to be doing a different color. I do want to have some blending. So, and so the chin, side of the cheek, the underneath of the jaw, I'm probably going to have some, but I'm going to probably allow that to go to the dark. And then to the back of the head, I'm going to pick it up. So I'm just slowly just kind of building up. Doesn't look like much so far, and this is just because I'm just starting, so it takes a little bit to get started. And this is where I can just jump into different colors quickly and add. So if I want to bring in a little bit more red, I can do all that kind of stuff. How's it going, Engine? How's it going, Greek Force? Charles, if you could recommend a laptop to use ZBrush, does a 17-inch monitor in comparison? Well, it's whatever you're comfortable with. I actually am working on the Cintiq 21UX, but some people need to have the super wide monitor. So if you see in the little section you see where I'm drawing right here, that's my monitor. And then the extra stuff on the side where you see the picture of me in the camera and the Grimm and B. Briley stuff, that's what would be in the monitor. I like to actually work on a more uniform. I'm not a big fan of the widescreen, so whatever you're used to. ZBrush will work great on, you know, pretty much anything. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. And having the proper, you know, where your workspace is just like you can't work on a desk that's full of crap. You know what I mean? You need to make sure you're just comfortable with how you're working. So having like a very nice space that you feel comfortable working on is the way to go. But if I sat down, it's not going to be how I like to work, so it's going to be totally uncomfortable. So you need to build whatever is comfortable for you, to be honest. And then that's why I kind of, if you guys notice, I use the default ZBrush open, just so you guys can see it. And again, because a lot of times I've seen it where people have something entirely different. I can't even figure out if it's ZBrush or not. So I'm going up a little bit. I'm going to kind of jump into the reds just a little bit as I go lighter. And I might have gone a little bit too pink, so let's pull back. I'm building. And so what I'm trying to do is just kind of find the medium skin tone that I want. And then I'm going to kind of have some highlights here, and I just will have that as a balance. So I'm getting close to a nice temperature for the skin that I think he's getting a little bit more towards the flesh tone, but he's not, you know, not totally brown. I'm definitely going to have a little bit more of the highlights on top of the head because he's got a big skull, right? He's got a big head because I want a little bit more insect with him. So a lot of this light skin is going to be to the top right here, and then fall off, you know, for the shading, some of the detail. And again, back here, I'm going to pick up some details on the side, kind of the front of the lips and section. So, what is your channel otherwise, Brett? RD Multimedia. I've just started doing this for ZBrushLIVE. I used to do a lot of just one-on-one teaching, but well, I've taught before too. I'm gonna be doing more of the teaching here pretty soon, but I just thought I would jump on because the polypainting stuff was for my own to start pushing myself, but I don't have a Twitch channel besides the ZBrush. There is like a little section where they're putting my videos that you could find, and then I'll probably just, once I have a good section, like down the road, I might do a little bit more personal Twitch stuff, and or I might make it to where I start teaching some game stuff, whatever people are interested to see. But usually if I'm on ZBrush, I'll teach ZBrush. If I'm in games, I'll stick to games. Alright. So let me pick up some detail on the ear. Okay. So he's getting that tone. Let's go up a little bit more. And I'm debating about, I might go a little bit to the warms. And I'm going to probably change to a little bit more spotch type because I want to bring in some of that very, like a broken up skin. And the alpha is helping me to kind of break up the skin a little bit more. Kind of gives it more of that, not disease look, but it's not a perfect type of skin. You want to try to find some alphas that kind of dither, that kind of give you some variation. And this is where, if I went to here and I did the color spray, you know what I mean, as you see right there, it kind of gives you some pinks and, you know, all kind of stuff. That's where that goes into it. But I'm pretty much wanting to keep control of my color that I want to bring in for consistency throughout the skin. So I don't want to look like he's kind of like radiation, where all of his skin is all screwed up all over the place. So I appreciate it, Pro, and thanks, Mortar, for popping that up. Yeah, I'm trying to do these quick so you guys can see start to finish. You know what I mean? I know a lot of streams kind of go over top of like a full character, you know, or whatever. They take you through the whole process, and it's weeks long and stuff, and it's very easy to kind of get lost in a lot of the different sections. Or you're kind of just like, hey, how do I do this? And you're just trying to find that one section. That's where I have trouble with DVDs. I'm like, I need one answer, and you got to wait through like 6 hours of stuff to find that one little thing. So I'm trying to make these a little bit faster for people to view and jump and ask questions, and you know, and again, not be super serious. I don't believe you should be be serious, but I mean take your art seriously, I guess I should say, but just relax, just do it. Okay, all right. So now that I got most of my skin tone kind of worked out, I'm going to start bringing in some various colors to it. And I also need to figure out what the eyes are going to be. Now these, I could either go to here and pick up some of this color. And again, this is at 260, so I'm going to bring up my tone. So either I can say that this is going to be part of this little section to where it's connected, or these are going to be a totally different color of what's being broken down inside there. So I'm going to hide these for a second. I'm just going to hit solo because I'm going to start kind of thinking about what I want to do, the color I want to do in here. I'm going to choose about the same level value as I started because I want to build darks again. And I might go a little bit towards the purples, maybe purple-ish because I want to go straight red. I'm still thinking crabs. I'm still thinking that kind of stuff, that lobsters, that kind of have that color. And I'm going to start bringing these in to where I'm blending with the browns that are already there, that I have from previous, you know, of the color, because I want to blend. I don't want to have stark, you know, this is one color, this is another color. I want to have the blends between it, because just like in real life, like on a corner of a desk, you're going to see color, you're going to see light, and then you know, there's always a color between two colors. It's never going to go black, white, you know, it's going to have gray. It's never going to go, you know, it's not going to be blue, red. It's going to have the gradation of purple between the two colors blending. So think of it that way. It's never going to be, you know, maybe in hard surface if you want to do it, but when you're dealing with organics and everything else, you want to kind of just have subtleties. It's all about, to me personally, subtleties of your creations. So I'm kind of starting to blend over that edge. Okay. And as you can see right there, that becomes a little bit more believable, because I'm having some of that color seep in underneath the skin. I don't want to go too far, but I want to kind of bring some of it. And I'm probably going to go back to this little area, and I'm going to decide if this is going to be more towards the flesh of the inside or the flesh of the outside. You definitely want to kind of probably pull that in. So I'm blending just a few of these areas, trying to be consistent to the colors. The face kind of has some of the warmth, so I'm going to probably add some to there. And got to be careful. How's it going, Graciano? Just because, well, here's the thing: is like no matter where you live now, you have the benefit of the internet. So since you're able to talk to me, and I'm in Texas, I don't know where you're at, but I mean you're not down the street. The great thing about now is that the internet, you're able to be connected with anything. I mean, I've done work where, you know, Japan, you know, where I hate to fly, I will not be flying there to go do work, but I'm connected by internet, so I could do different things anywhere. That's the benefit. So you're not restricted anymore, to be quite honest. The only restriction you might have is that you just have to build up your portfolio to be strong enough to go against those people online, because by having that open now, you are competing against people all over the world. It becomes a little bit harder. So, because there are some phenomenal people everywhere. Okay, so now that I got that color, I'm going to probably go up a little bit to the red and a little higher, because I want to start getting away from that deep purple. I'm going to start slowly. Does that answer your question, Graciano? And are you going more towards movies, games? I mean, what are you kind of looking at? I mean, it's most of the times, you know, the company would like you there, and you know, but like I said, if your portfolio is strong enough, they'll set you up, they'll fly you and get you all set up in there too. But otherwise, if you're really remote, that's where freelance comes in, and then yeah, you definitely have to be pretty strong. Okay, so I'm picking up some of these warmths, some of the colors. I'm going to pick up just a little bit on the lips. Kind of blending in. And again, if I go over too much, I could always pull from the different colors and bring it back. Okay. You're welcome. If you have any further questions, just go ahead and drop me a line. But I mean, it's yeah. I mean, honestly, those of you who are artists now, it's like it's a great time. I mean, you have a lot of competition, like I said, but you have a lot of opportunities as well if you put your mind to it. So, okay, he's looking pretty red. I mean, stark. I got two colors, so I want to blend in some stuff. I want to probably go back to a little bit towards that orange, and then because I can probably bring in some blues. So let me go back over to my oranges, and I'm going to start to bring some of those back into that blend section, because I think I got a little bit too much purple in there, and I want to kind of bring some of this back, especially on the, I think on the under eye here. This eyelid, I think I want to go more towards where the skin is rather than just being total part of the flesh of the inside of the eye. Okay, and then I'm going to probably go down to my blue teals here, and I'm going to just probably go a little bit lighter. And what am I doing by just adding a little bit of these blues? I'm now going into, because it's mixing, it's going into the purples, okay? And that's going to kind of just help give some visual interests to all these colors, and then it's going to help pop out some of the higher lights that I want to bring in, like the I'm going to be going into a light red, some pinks to really focus your eye in this little section. So I want to kind of have some of these darks, cools to really make the warmths kind of show up. I'm going to put some cools down in here. One second, guys. Alright, got some blues there, and then definitely I'm going to cool down this neck a little bit, this little section. I'm going to blend skin. Okay, so once I have this, I'm going to kind of probably bring it a little bit to the back. I'm going to cool down the neck and some of these shaded areas back underneath the ear. Yes, Graciana, one more question, more technical this time. How big should alphas be in terms of resolution? The larger they are, the better the detail. I mean, that's so if you try to always, on your images, try to always get the best size reference, that kind of stuff, as much as possible. But of course, the larger they are, the more times you'll have to pay for them, and they can, you know, get pretty expensive. So if you can find it, you know, whatever, when you're searching on Pinterest or Google or whatever, try to find the largest size that you can always get before you have to start paying for it. And then just keep your library. I mean, just keep building up on your picture library. I have, like I said, I have a huge library that I just keep adding. It gets very confusing, and I would highly suggest that you guys be clean from the start. I wasn't. I really wish I was. So it's kind of a complete mess, to be quite honest. But I sure as hell am not going to go back to it and try to clean it up now. It's beyond help. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring that eye back. And as you can see right there, I've got some of these where I'm probably going to go a little bit darker back here. And I'm going to go to this eye section. Now I'm switching over, and I'm just going to go ahead and do color, and I'm just going to fill that object down. Instead of me kind of slowly painting, I want to bring that back. So that makes it actually belong to that eye socket now, whereas before it just felt disjointed. So the color is actually unifying the piece. So now that I have that color, I'm going to kind of pull from some of the different ones, slowly building out some of that color on the outside here. Mixing, I might have to go up a little bit higher. It's not really being seen. Does a viewer's eyes pay more attention to the warm areas of the face so that they're cold? It's a balance for sure. I mean, it's values are a big thing. So the lighter the value is, the more it pops. So you got to be very careful about how. So it's kind of a, you know, stuff like kind of, if I had a, you know, a brighter cool than a darker warm, then that cool would kind of pop a little bit more. So it's based on value as well. So things I want you to pay attention to, I'm going to do highlights on, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going from dark and I'm building up. So you'll see that here in a little bit. So I want to define these eyes out a little bit more. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to a warm, and I'm going to a higher value to slowly bring these out. Because again, that shadow is going to help pull it back into the depth. And as you can see right there in the back, in this little section right here, it's not as dark. So I need to darken and push that back, because right now that value is throwing your eye a curveball. It's kind of like saying, this is more important, look at me, look at me. And I want to kind of just say, no, you're not that important, push back. But you know, if I threw it into a really super dark cool, it will feel disjointed. So I'm going to go here, I'll lighten this up just a little bit. So I'm just kind of slowly pushing this out. But I'm picking colors that blend it together, right? So now let me go ahead and pick this color right here. I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to go to color spray, hide, oops, solo, and I'm going to darken this up quite a bit. I'm going to turn off color spray, save, and let me just darken. I'm using color spray with kind of a dark to actually knock this back a little bit, and just go. And I'm using different alphas to kind of blend. So right now I'm just going back to my darks to kind of just make sure that some of these areas I definitely do not want popping. And I don't want to go to a straight black. You want to have color within your darks as well. Okay. And I'm just using this color that I've gotten to kind of knock that back. All right. So let's go back to this lighter color, and I'm going to start highlighting just a little bit to warm up some of these areas and brighten them up a little bit. Because I want to start kind of separating it from the depth in there. So I'm going to highlight like this little eyelid, and I'm kind of skipping a little bit to kind of add just a little bit of detail into there. Okay. Hey, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Mark. Mark Leon's a good friend of mine. Very good artist that does the game stuff. Finally joined. Appreciate it, my friend. So yeah, now that I'm kind of, when I build these colors up too, guys, I can actually just pull from them again. So I'm just kind of grabbing from the surrounding colors and blending back. So now that I have that, that helps that little section back in there. It's pretty, it's still dark, but it's still, it's a lot more reduced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to these highlights, and I'm going to keep making these a little bit lighter. I'm going to turn off my alpha. I'm going to start defining, oops. So by doing this like higher value, I'm now giving some detail to this eye. How's it going, Bromedy? Appreciate you joining us today. And then I'm going to kind of just give a little bit more of, I'm going to draw on some like this little flesh detail. And highlight, and then let's go back over here. I'm going to use that same tone and color just to kind of highlight a few of these areas that we're getting lost. Okay. And so what this does is it actually kind of starts bringing in some of that believability. If it's just one tone and one color, if you don't have a lot of those blends and those details, it kind of just doesn't really make the viewer believe that these guys are all connected. But by having like this pink kind of slowly transition into the flesh, then it feels connected. It's not stark, and it's not, separated from itself. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to lead your eye as well with some of this color to sit there and lead your eye around in my details and make it all connected really quickly. So how are we doing in time? So we're at 3. Okay, so it should be done in a little bit. Alright, so I'm kind of using that in other places. This actually has a little bit of the pink, the warm, so I'm going to kind of, in those areas, I'm going to kind of use to do some highlights on as well. Use it as a blending tool between. This, and let's get some of that highlight. Actually, I might bring this more into kind of like it's a little bit more flesh tone than skin on the inside here to help separate, because this was looking like it was part of the skin so much, so I want to show some of that warmth. Okay, and by doing this color too, I opened up that lip from being like it was kind of confusing, so I'm trying to define it to say that there is this is part of the lip, so he's almost got like a hair lip, I guess I would say, like it's kind of splits and opens up. So now let me go to the skin tone. I'm going to go back to these yellows and I'm going to go up because I needed to find some of the same thing I was doing for the lips and the warmth. And I'm going to start adding some of these highlights and start leading your eye around. Sawfellow, I'm just using the ZBrush paint, PolyPaint, ZBrush Illustrate paint. That's all I use. So I like it because it has like a nice little blue hue to it, and then I'm just painting. I do not, you know, the only thing that has a material hit to it right now is the eyeball, which I'll probably, which I'm just doing right now just to define, because I want it to be realized as an eyeball, but I'm not defining it quite yet. So I need to either decide, do I want to paint something on it, do I want to paint the eyeball onto it, or, you know, but I'm going to see. I'm going to test out some of my highlights in my skin. I'm getting my tones. I'm doing blends, and once I start seeing what my skin, the surrounding area of that eye, then I'm going to use that eye as the focal area by blending and detailing out. So, Beachy Keens, I appreciate you like my liking my monsters. Yeah, I mean it's just, you know, I still don't like my monsters. I'm still playing with them. I'm still having, you know, fun with them. But there's so many better artists out there. You have to just do what you like to do. I'm not very good at cute things. I mean, females are difficult for me. I can do them, but they take a lot longer. Hard surface is more difficult for me. It takes a lot longer. So I have specialties. Organics I like a lot because I've, you know, studied anatomy a lot, and so I have a tendency to just kind of fall back onto what makes it easier for me. But what I'm doing is I'm relying on the traditional anatomy and just kind of making up stuff as I go and trying to find things that I see. So I'm going to blend this because I want to populate this into the flesh tone. But again, I'm doing a very soft, subtle hit to it because I want to kind of take some of that eye. Like it's almost kind of like the flesh is connected to that inner eye, so I want to sit there and have it blend. I might do some pitches of height, of color, highlights on this section to kind of make it feel like it's the stretched skin over top of that bone. Okay, and I have a lot of this broken up skin right there that I'm going to kind of, you know, use. And then just because I do this one color over top doesn't mean I'm not going to go back with another color. This is part of the blending. It's going back and forth over top of it, allowing the colors to intermix, so you're not seeing one defining color. Now this is pretty dark underneath here, so I probably want to wipe out some of that, but I still have some of those lines. Once I have lost that color, I can just go back, and I'm not going, what is my exact color here? I'm just trying to grab some value that was pretty close. And I'm just going to kind of keep sweeping, because what I'm doing is trying to lead your eye on the creature, and I'm blending that all together. So even if it's not there really in the sculpt, I'm just kind of trying to, doesn't mean I can't do a Polypaint and then come back into that sculpt and define it. So thank you, I appreciate it, Peachy Gains. And actually, I'm freelance. I've been freelance for about 5 years now, but I've been in the game industry for about 20. So I decided to, after I decided to break off and try my my luck on freelance, and I've been doing it since, and been very lucky. But I have a very good network of friends and people that have, I've worked with for years that trust me. Network is key when you're doing freelance, because there's always somebody better than you. But if they don't have the network, then you have the leg up on them. So I'm going to bring in some of these highlights down the neck, because again, I'm trying to connect. I don't want to just say this is least important, this isn't working. Right now I've got most of my colors going. He's pretty stark. I need to start blending as well. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. Now that I have this color going, I'm going to go back to my alpha, and let's go ahead and choose this one, and I'm going to start using that to blend in some of these colors again. So now that I'm grabbing a little bit of that red to go onto the underneath to get some of that warmth in these areas. Definitely pick up some of the cools down in the chin, not that much, but I want to blend a little bit more. Okay. So you can see right there that you see the breakdown of the color. You can still see it. That alpha, the whites, you see that coming through. That is also helping to blend in. So I'm trying to get back to a little bit where I said was like the red-orange. I'm trying to bring in some of that again, but I'm kind of trying to do it in a design to emphasize, like I like the fact that you're starting to see those swoops. I need to do something design-wise up here, and I definitely need to bring something back to these cheeks right here to lighten those up because they were getting lost. So let's go back into there. So what I'm looking at now in the design is I'm just trying to find some of those areas to pitch your eye. I'm going to highlight these just a little bit. And then down here in the depth, I'm going to knock them back. Let's knock that back a little bit. Oh, nice. That's cool, Peachy Gains. Yeah, I worked on, I was one of the main characters for Rage. So I worked on that, Doom, Wolfenstein for a while. And then, but I mean, I've worked on, I mean, you could look at my website. I've been lucky enough to work on quite a few phenomenal games and talent over the years. But I just find that I do better with freelance just because I can concentrate on my work, and then I can just jump off of other things really quickly, which I have a tendency to do. Kind of scatterbrain. And I don't like being held down to one thing. So now I have these. I'm going to go more to the orange high. I'm going to bring out some detail warmth to. I'm trying to get some of that color mixture on here. And I'm just blending, guys. I'm just trying to. Okay. It's working pretty good. He looks like he's got kind of like a mustache, so I'm going to highlight this a little bit more because I want to separate a little section. I have it kind of opening up to where he's got kind of like the lip, so I wanted to find that, really kind of showcase off that kind of lip and that turn. So I'm going to highlight the chin a little bit more, bring that out. And then let's lighten up the back of the side here. Get some highlights. And then I'm going to take some of these cools. So again, remember what I was saying, you have to, whatever you have on the front, you kind of want to take it to the back a little bit. So I'm blending in just a little bit to emphasize some more of that detail. This highlight right here at the top, and then I'm going to probably do some kind of design. So I'm going to look at my alphas really quickly, just to kind of give him a little bit, either like some spots or something else to kind of give him some, because he's such, I made his head so big, seems like a lot of the lobsters, crabs, that kind of stuff, they have markings on them and stuff. So Peachy Keens, no, you can ask as many questions as you want. I used to draw a lot, to be quite honest. I sculpt and I concept pretty much entirely in ZBrush though. Right now I kind of just have a tendency to toss stuff down, kit bash together, just to think about my ideas. So that's where I find it the most successful to do it. So right now I'm going to go into my pictures, into my deeper alpha section. So give me a second, because this is where I just have a lot more crazy alphas that I think I'd be using. I should just pull these all up. That's the problem once you go into like a certain pack. So like I pulled this up before, so if I'm going to grab a couple really quickly. And an alpha can kind of range into a whole bunch of different stuff that you might not even think about using. I think on the last one I was using cracks to kind of give veins. I think it was this one I was pulling from, and that's the thing. Just because it belongs into an environment, thank you. You know, or it says it's for concrete, or it says it's for this, does not mean that you cannot use it for something else. So just it's how you want to use it, how you want to think about bringing it to your artwork. Let's see. This is kind of like here, like this is for a leaf. Now I don't think this is, depending on how strong this is. So let's pick a dark color. Let's go in here. Let's do that leaf. So that leaf is, you barely can see it, even though I got it pretty intense right there. That's because the alpha is pretty light. I'm holding down Alt to kind of give it like the little, like an inverse, and goes dark. It wasn't as successful as I thought it might be, but I tried it. So this is kind of like a frog one. Looking for something kind of so let's see what this one will do. If it's, see, anytime you got the alpha fall off, it's not pretty strong. It's going to kind of gives you some weird stuff. That looks like he's been shot in the head. So no. Yeah, honestly, it's like I sculpt all the time. I just have fun. If I'm not working on something for a project or another project, then I'm working my own stuff. So, and it's part of what, I mean, that's what you should do if you just enjoy it. Okay, some of these alphas, like they won't particularly work, but I grabbed a couple of them. So let's just go back to something that, okay, that might work. I might go to some of the darks, and I've got this pretty high. So I'm going to grab maybe towards my reds. I might have to go a little bit darker. So what I'm doing is just kind of like, it might kind of go into the blend. You're starting to look kind of like a jaguar. So that might not work. Or it might be to where I just need to knock down that intensity just a little bit or just do it onto the sides where it doesn't feel like a jaguar. It's starting to feel like, just a little alien pocked. Also, it could be a color, so I could choose like a different color to bring in the blues. or I just might actually just use that to you know, not necessarily bringing it to the head, or I might just kind of bring it down to break up the neckline. Let's try. Anthony, I've been pretty lucky. I have had no injuries whatsoever. But I mean, I've had a lot of friends that have had issues with repetitive drawing and that kind of stuff. You have to kind of move around. Let's say my left shoulder kind of sometimes gets tired, but I don't know. It's just, you know, you have to kind of work out to be aware. Not that I'm saying I do, but it's you have to be very aware about your postures and all kind of stuff. But I've been like I said, I work 12 to 14 hour days, 7 days a week, and I've been pretty lucky. I have a nice Herman Miller chair. I kind of move around, but I'm pretty sure if I had an ergonomic guy come in here and you'd be like, "Oh, you're doing it all wrong." Okay, so something you want to be aware of. Okay, I'm bringing in some of the initial. I went back to the alpha that I kind of used, so I'm going to kind of bring this down into my neck, and I'm going to probably bring some of this towards my back and see how it looks here. I mean, again, it has sort of like a cheetah feel to it, but I'm going to kind of try to mix it to where it doesn't quite. I'm going to probably try to mix it with something else to give it a little bit of different flair from just being pure cheetah. So let's bring in some like stark lines. Okay. And again, if it's not working, I could always go back, pick a color that's surrounding that area and just blend out. So this is where I don't really do layers, or I kind of, like, if I screw up, I just kind of, I'm working color back and forth, and I'm just taking out certain areas that might be not working as well. So like, or if I want to bring in some of this color a little bit to his skin, then I just kind of pick up that surrounding color, or in here, you know, take it out a little bit. Let's darken up. Okay. So I'm getting, what time? Okay, doing pretty well. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to do some super highlights right now because I sort of stopped. So I'm going to flesh out some more of these details. 67 is fine. Yeah, I mean, Anthony, it's kind of, I don't know. I've been pretty lucky. I should, knock on wood, I should have done that. Because watch, the next week you'd be like, hey, I have an injury. Thanks, Anthony. Brought it up. How's it going, Melabnew? Sorry. Some of you guys' names are pretty difficult for me to get. Just join. What would you recommend to someone who wants to get into the industry? What should he or practice with? Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, it depends on what industry you're going into. You know, that's a big one. Usually, when I teach for games, I teach. I don't know. To me, learning games would allow you to go into movies where you specialize, but games are pretty specific, and there's a lot of different fields within the game industry. But a lot of it has to do with just tons of work. I always suggest to my students that they focus on realistic props. Even those, I mean, I've had plenty of students like, oh, the reason you want us to do realistic props is because you don't want to have a competition as a character artist. No, not worried about that. When there's people that make me look like I'm 4, I'm not worried about you guys. It's just the fact that you don't have a lot of opportunity to work on characters, and it opens up to a lot of the realistic props. It allows you to do so many different types of games, and it's pretty important for hard surface and everything to be learned. Because like on a character, I mean, one character I did for Rage on one of the games, I had 40 items on that character that were all hard surface. You know, like a teddy bear, a kitchen sink, a whole bunch of other kind of crap. If I was just focused on organics, I never would have been able to do that character. So you have to kind of learn it all. But what kind of area are you thinking about going into? Because if it's visual effects or like, you know, they each have their own kind of specialty in a different direction you could probably go towards. Okay, so now I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm detailing out a little bit. Add a couple, adding a little bit highlights, maybe like little pimples. He's a teenage alien crab. Okay, let's detail this. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much self-taught it too. I mean, I took some courses later, but it didn't really help me. The only thing they kind of helped me do is just to challenge me. Because when I was in college and stuff, I just pretty much challenged the teachers. Because I didn't look at my fellow students as competition. I was looking at the professionals. So that's how I always usually thought. It's like I just had to keep pushing myself past a certain point to kind of keep doing it. And I'm not saying that you can't be a character artist, but the thing is character arts are, it's like a lead singer of a band. There's very few, and everybody wants to do it because they think they're going to get all the chicks. They don't. You're not going to be, anything more popular as your character artist or not. But it's also very dependent on the field you're going into. If you're going into a smaller game company, you might be able to work on characters, but you're going to be wearing a whole bunch of hats as well, But when I was working, whenever I worked in the game industries or the different companies and even movie companies that I've helped out, they have so much need for the environment pieces and everything else. It just, so much needs to be done. That's where a lot of the seats are open for you to come in. Now, I highly suggest that you kind of, once you get in, if you still want to do characters, then you keep pushing. That's pretty much what I did. I did competitions online, and I did a bunch of projects on the side, and so I didn't just, but I was at work, I was doing a lot of environment stuff. So just be aware. And as a character artist, you have to know anatomy. You have to know a lot of stuff. You have to know how to set up the character for some animation. So like because let's say if I build a blender, it doesn't have to move, it's solid. But if I have to build a character, then I have to do tons of different stuff. So so in this, well, I mean, right, I'm working on anatomy. I mean, I'm working on characters, whatever, but I'm not necessarily, if I was in the game company, I would have to be doing this character, and let's say if he had a helmet, then I have to do the hard surface, and then, he needs a spaceship, I might have to do that. It depends. There's just a lot of different stuff that can go into a character that's not. But when you have a couple character artists for that job, and they need 30 people, you have a better shot at getting in as a, an environment artist. And good environment artists are hard to find. So now I'm just kind of doing some quick scratches to make it look like his skin's been highlighted a little bit. And then let me go ahead and grab this color and let's detail out this little section. I mean, don't do what you guys want to do. I mean, it's just be aware. I always try to tell the student, everybody, what you're going up against. But then if I saw your portfolio, then I would be very honest to tell you if you have a shot or not. and how many hours you need, because there's, you know, it's and a lot of students will always kind of, I want to go to like ILM or DreamWorks, I want to go to the high level, you know, Pixar, I want to go to the high companies, because that's what they strive for. When I was trying to get into Disney, the competition was insane. I couldn't believe the amount of competition. So, and just got to be aware what you're against. I would not say Blender. I would try to get into like Max, Moto, Maya, you know what I mean? More of the professional programs, to be quite honest. If it's free, it's kind of, it's usually, you know, it's, you kind of, there are, you know, cheaper versions of those programs out there, but those, I would try to go, anything a professional uses, you learn. If a professional doesn't use it, then don't learn it. Don't waste your time. So, and you guys have a lot of opportunities to kind of find that stuff online, but also be very aware of, you have a lot of people teaching you stuff, and it could be crap. And if you learn a bad habit, then good luck trying to get rid of that habit. You spend years trying to get rid of it. So finding the right teacher, finding the right program in the direction you want to go it's difficult for a student. So take some time trying to figure that out. Do your research. Yes, I can imagine. Yes, it was insane. I had a great time, but it was pretty difficult. Worth it, but okay. So I'm kind of getting close to being done. As you guys notice, I've been blending, kicking back, pushing, pulling onto my forms, looking. So now let's say. I should save, because I should save. I guess it's Friday. I usually have a lot more people in, so it looks like this, you know, people have been busy today. So let's go back to the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and take those eyes. I'm just going to make a quick duplicate, just because I want to keep them as is. I'm going to divide up, and let's go ahead and take off this material. To get rid of a material, you go down to flat color, and as you can see right there, the flat color, you can see all my Polypainting detail. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just going to fill object. I'm just trying to get rid of that material hit. So when I go back to whatever color I'm working on, you know, you're going to see. Now the problem is, like, whatever material, since this is just a flat color, I don't have any material associated with it, whatever I choose is going to change my whole character. Right now I'm just taking a look at the eyes. So let's say I'm going to just go to a toy plastic. Toy plastic kind of makes it kind of like a wet shine. You can choose that, or you could even just go like a little weird sketchy kind of stuff. You can try to do a couple different types. If I go to a chrome, I'm not going to really be able to see any kind of poly painting. So let's just go to toy plastic really quickly. I'm going to go, my material's still there. Let's just do it at 100% color, fill that object with material. I'm going to go back to my RGB, and I'm going to kick back into my ZBrush Illustrate. Square, are you talking about like Blender? Oh, what do you mean by it's a free pass anyway? If you're going for a professional job, and then I, you know. Okay, so let's take a look at this color. Now I might want to just sit there and pick a, let's go to a kind of like an off teal green. Okay, and then I'm going to go up a little bit lighter, and I'm going to go back to this, and let's pick up a alpha. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to slowly try to bring up the eye. Not working as well as I want. And since I know it's not going to move, I'm going to kind of try to paint some of that fake shadow in. And I'm going to slowly, oops. I want some of that weird green. And let's see. So let's say if we do something to where we're kind of echoing the shape of, you know, what's going on. I'm going to take out this alpha. Thank you, Millibino. I appreciate it. You can also find me on, like I have an Instagram, and I just joined with Martin Verhoeven and James Kane. We're doing like a fun kit. We actually met at ZBrush Summit. We decided we want to do some kits and stuff. So, and actually James is kind of more towards a miniature, and Martin does more kind of like concept and movies, and I'm a mixture of them. So by doing that in the eye, like having that little slit, that kind of helps. I'm going to go to a different color. Let's make that light. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find like what might work. I mean, I don't know if I like that any better. I could go back into my material and I could go down to a... So if you just take a look right up in there, when I go over top of my material stuff, because that has a material set into it, I'm not going to see it change. So I won't actually see what happens until I have the painting on and then I actually drag across. Okay, and then you start to see that effect. So when I go back in, then I had that material associated with my Polypainting. So let's go to, let's try that reflecting again. And usually with a reflection you can't do, it's going to be 100%. So I can't sit there and say I want to have, I can go down to like 3, and whenever I do a sweep, it's kind of going to be on. So you got to be very aware that some of these materials will work, some won't. So see, I have the reflection. If I go back in here, I have that, you can see it a little bit, but it doesn't really work. So now I can just decide, I'm going to turn off this and I'm going to snap back and forth. So I might actually like that little bit of color, but let's try adding just a little bit of darkness around, see if we can see any of it. I don't think we can. No, there's not much. He's just so dark to begin with, so we're not going to be able to tell too much. But that, I think, works a little bit better than this one. But if you were going to try a couple different eyes, I mean, just, or if you're like, what does that look like if I do, you know, if I make a duplicate of this one, and let's just go ahead and I'm an RGB, let's go up a little bit higher because I went down, and let's make it a little bit more towards those oranges and highlight. How many layers do you have for this sculpt? Peachy Keen's sitting about 6. I knocked it up to 6 million just because I wanted to get some more detail for my Polypainting. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing like a cloud. I'm doing very gentle, very subtle hits. I'm keeping, I did dark and I'm kind of building up to the middle and I'm building up just subtle. So I might go up just one more. Okay. So let's say I'm not going to define out the eyelid, the iris at all. It's, you know, I'm not going to do like a, you know, what it would look like if I have a black dot, because that looks cartoony. I mean, I could do, or I'm going to do a couple different dots. It looks kind of weird. It's kind of cross-eyed. Or sorry, cross-eyed, eye-eyed. I can do like, you know, I mean, you can paint and kind of, but once you put in that iris, it kind of changes it from being a little bit more evil, questioning. Usually a lot of the characters I would do for evil, I would try to not to give them any eyes, because if they have no eyes, you have no soul, you can't talk to them, they pretty much will just kill you. So if you have a monster with teeth and no eyeballs, then you're dead. You know it. That's why, you know, the alien and that kind of stuff is really successful. Or the teeth are more, you know, detailed out than the eye. So it's like this. Like if I wanted to make him kind of cute, I would kind of do this little eye by taking out that iris. That kind of, but I'm picking up some of the color tone of the surrounding one to make it feel like it's part of it. I think that gives me enough of. It's a little bit interesting. Kind of just bringing this down a little bit. I'm going to go back into the. I'm now on the eyelid, and I'm just going to darken that eyelid again. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set that eye, now that I've kind of got it, back in a little bit. And I'm detailing out this guy. Okay, so I think that's a little bit more successful than the previous two eyes that I was doing. So again, I'm just trying to test out certain things and seeing what's going to work. You could also, with this, if I want to do some alpha scratches, by having this alpha, I'm doing some, like if I want to do some quick skin highlights, you can pick that alpha with the scratches and kind of, let me turn it up so you can see what I'm doing. See that? So by having those alphas, that's actually for the skin. But let's say if I want to do a whole bunch, I can make this look a little bit more broken up in the skin. Okay. I mean, you're talking about layers within. These are subtools. I mean, I have a lot of different subtools, and I use a lot of that for kit bashing, peachy keens, if that's what you mean. But yeah, I mean, I honestly just I have a tendency just to kind of play and just try to test out certain things. So I'm going to kind of slowly wrap this up, guys. This is where if you guys have any questions, I'm pretty close. I'm sort of happy with this. I really don't like that. I want it dark. I'm catching a lot of that detail in the back. So I did a color. Let's go ahead and make it kind of like a purple. So that's going to cool that down. I just need to knock that back a little bit. Okay, same thing for some of these. I'm going a little bit too extreme just to kind of push back some of these things that are bothering my eye. Like I want to really set that nose back in there. And then let's bring some color. Remember I was trying to separate these two, so I'm coming back in here. Okay. So now I'm just looking around certain shapes that kind of are not working for me. I'm just going to go back and kind of tweak out a few of those, do some blending and finalizing. Right now I'm thinking the layers in ZBrush are the same in Photoshop. In kind of a way, yeah. They are very close to it. I mean, they're the subtools, and the only thing you really can't, I mean, you can sort of blend between them in a way, but not like in Photoshop to the degree. It's usually like if I have a subtool on here, I can't really blend the opacity level to the layers below. I have those layers down here. You can kind of do the layers where you have some opacity levels, but on the character that you're doing, but it's a little bit different. You know, I'm not sorry if that's not making any kind of sense. It's just, it's got some similarities, but it's not. ZBrush is its own program. It's its own to itself. There's so many things you can do in ZBrush, but it's not like when you're building up on your layers. You have these are just the when you go into the geometry and you're dividing, it's sort of kind of giving you different layers of detail, not necessarily intermixing with other layers below it as in Photoshop you would. And there's no multiply or, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's if you look over top of my videos, it's just pretty much how I break it down. It's just you're just simply getting an object and you're just sculpting and playing from. When I started, and I don't know if you guys saw, but it's like if I pretty much started from, so if I clone that, I started from this. So that was what I started from, and then this is where I'm at. And I went through a couple different transitional levels. So in here you can actually see, so I started from here, the lady, I'm sorry, from here, from the original sketch or the scan, and then I just divided it up and I chose one symmetrical side, left or right, which then I started playing around. So if you guys remember, I kind of was starting to try to figure it out. I started adding more detail. This is where I kind of cleaned it up because I took what I had, I re-cleaned it up, and then I started going on to the character, and I went into a different direction, and then I snapshotted that, and to go for the head. So it's sort of like playing. In most of my stuff, when I started out, I saw ET and I just started trying to find things and try to get away from it. So that's how it kind of started to get into this character. Now, a lot of people have been asking about Sculptris really quickly. I'm just going to do this, very quick. But let's say I wanted to make this guy a little bit more towards the lobster section. So I'm just going to append a sphere again. And let me go back to my coloration. And I'm going to go to my move tool. Okay. And I would start it out just like I would do it any other way. I'm going to use my rotation, and I'm going to make it a little bit long. Okay. Okay, once I have this, and let me turn off my color. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just do my subtool, master, and I'm just going to go ahead and mirror, and I'm just going to merge into one, so I have that object. I'm going to hit symmetry. I'm going to turn this off. This already has in my geometry level, where am I at? There's no levels. So when there's no levels, when I turn on Sculptris, I am now going into to where I'm going to be able to affect on the fly, decimate, clean, do all kind of stuff on the fly. So it's okay, Infinite. No, I saw ET as well. That's what I'm saying. When you do an alien, there's tons of stuff that you kind of pull from your memories and you kind of pick on it. Especially when you do the big eyes, it goes hectic. This is where you're starting on your Sculptris. I'm just going to kind of play. So everything that I do, that I've been doing with my move tool, standard, everything works in Sculptris. So what all this does is it allows me to sit there and push and pull to try to figure out the shapes. And as the normal, if I just did this normally, I'd be stuck because I'm pushing and pulling all those details. But because I'm in Sculptris, when I hold down and you see how it goes orange, I'm now able to kind of clean up or reduce on the fly. So this allows me to kind of re-sculpt out everything I'm doing, but it allows me to kind of, play around and make an object. Good. So if I go to the snake pull brush, where you at, snake? Let's go to the snake hook brush. So if I'm kind of doing like the snake hook brush, I can sit there and push and pull all this all over the place, the forms. Now it gets really messy, okay? But I can then go back in, and then I can go to a smaller brush size. This is the default. And then I'm going to go ahead and in some areas it's going to fall apart, or I can just kind of clean up and it'll add more geometry to that. This is where Sculptris comes in great to kind of concept and think. To me, I still kind of do it the older way, where I kind of just take spheres and I kind of will push and play until I get to a certain point. Because I find that sometimes if you're not careful, it really slows down. So this is like if I want to sit there and figure out if I want to add antennas, I can quickly go, yeah, let me use the inflat button here. See how the polys are kind of breaking down, but I can go to a smaller brush and add detail, and then kind of, oops. Okay. I was like, why is my standard not working? It's because I turned it down. And then this is where I can kind of push, pull, play, figure out if I want to add antennas, do some kind of detailing up. And then if I want more detail, I'm in the Sculptris, so then I can kind of go to a smaller brush and clean it up. So, and then I can go, does that work? That doesn't work. Does he look like an ant? Does he not? Do I want to sit there and make duplicate? Because sometimes, like I said, you know, maybe making duplicate ones will really help your form. You know, does that make it more alien? Does that make it more crab-like? All that kind of stuff. Maybe these were too big. Shrink these down just a little bit. Okay, so this is where the Sculptris kind of comes in pretty well, so you can kind of play. Because you're just thinking on the fly and you're not worried about it, and so yeah, you can make mystical antlers, and you know, or wait, he's got big bulbous. I don't know. He's the Christmas ant. Dope. And you saw right there, it's like there was not enough poly, so you have to go pretty small to kind of amplify that, or use the ant, you know. So you gotta do quite a bit. If you don't like that, then you just go to a larger, and I'm just hitting smooth, and it's gone. Gone. So it just allows you to kind of, you know, and if I just want to merge down, so then I can push and pull both those at the same time. So there we go. So now these right now are sitting at 90. Let's say I've shown people before how to pose, but since this guy's kind of like unique, I'm going to, you know, quickly pose this guy, because again, some people have been asking me about that. I just saved off whenever I kind of pose. I like to save. I'm going to go into the Z plugin, and I'm going to go down to Transpose Master. I'm going to go to T-Pose Mesh. T-Pose Mesh is going to go through every single file I have. You want to make sure you have that levels that's broken down, because if you don't, then it's going to kind of mess it up. Okay, and so then all I'm going to do is just kind of use my mask pen, and I'm going to mask lasso. And I have symmetry. Let me get symmetry on. And a lot of times you want to turn off the dynamic, because you want to have as flat as possible. So I'm just going to grab neck, and as you see right here, I'm going to hold down Alt to turn my gizmo. I'm going to go down more towards the neck muscle. And I'm going to turn off symmetry on here, because I just want to turn it a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of, all it is, I used the control to kind of like blend a little bit, because I don't want to have such starkness to it. And then I'm going to kind of, so I'm holding down Alt, and I'm clicking it. So what it's doing is blending back. It's giving me more of the neck. The gray, the dark is the mask, so you can't move them. And I'm flipping. So what I'm doing is, looks like I'm just going to really make them kind of turned, because I'm trying to reduce that neckline, because I don't want to sit there and move. And then you could also use the move tool to kind of go, you know, what's going on. And then let's say if I get his eyes, so then this is where I can actually go into my move tools too, and I can kind of say, well, now I didn't turn on the asymmetry, well, the posable symmetry, so right now I want to kind of probably change that. So let's say if I want these guys to kind of go back in, I could honestly do that, you know what I mean? I can pose them to where they kind of go back in, or maybe he's got one to where he's looking way out, like stretches out, he's kind of looking around, you know. You could do that, and then once, what will happen is whatever you do in this is going to actually, when you come out of, you know, T-pose, it's going to go ahead and throw those objects into those poses. So I don't think I want to go that drastic, so I'm going to go back here. Okay, let's just say we're just going to turn the head. We call that done. Okay, when you have all this information, as long as you don't have anything else, and some people don't know this, you can actually bring in, let's say I did another head and I had a pose that I wanted to set up. All you have to do is you can sit there and append. So let's say I wanted to append in a pose. Append in that file, and you can pose to that new appendage. But once you sit there and want to go back to actually have all your high poly details go back onto it, you need to make sure that you delete out this subtool. It has to be clean compared to whatever you started with, you have to end with, okay? Otherwise it will get lost. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to T-pose to subtools. So I'm pretty much going from my mesh back in. And it's going to go through all my subtools. It's going to take a look. Pop, 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 pop. Done. Okay. And then there we go. Back into it, and now my guy is posed. Okay. All right. So then what I would do is just say save as, and I'm just going to call this posed because right now I've lost that the previous ZBrush one, so it's not in here. This is my snapshot of it. That is the one. So the reason I do this is I'll go back and I'll just say load my subtool, and I'll just go back into the one that was not posed, and I'll just bring that back in and then continue working if I just want to test it out. Does that make sense? I hope. So there's my guy. Where are you at? There's my guy posed. What? So, yeah, I'm animating. I just animated. So, and you can continue that, and you can kind of do it. Now, the posable symmetry, which is up in your transform section right here, you can turn on activate usable posable symmetry, and as long as you start with a mesh that is pretty much 100% symmetrical, you can then mush and sculpt and keep doing, and we can just and use the usable posable symmetry. So if you start out with it symmetrical, and then you take this hand and you start moving it over here, whatever you do on your fingertip will be done on this fingertip. But sometimes it makes a mistake, so you got to be careful. So, all right, sorry, I didn't realize you guys were talking. I missed a couple. Yeah, Lementatis, yeah, Dynamesh is, or Sculptris is pretty much like Dynamesh on steroids. It's just all in one. So instead of me going through steps doing it, it does it on the fly. And you just got to be careful, because sometimes within the stroke, you can actually go up into Sculptris Pro right here. And depending on what you have on here, you can change some of the different functionalities of it. And you got to be careful, because I've done it to where when I started doing it, and just like it went up to the millions, like whoosh, you know, because I did something wrong, and then my computer just pretty much shut down. But yeah, I think this guy is pretty much good. So I'm going to turn back on my dynamic, and I'm going to go to align to my object, and I'm going to just go Control S for snapshot, and that just allows me to take a snapshot of this guy, and then Control S, and then I think he's good. So that was today's lesson, episode 9. If you guys have any other kind of questions, we can hit it really quickly. My next live, Mel, I'm just going to call you Mel, is I'm going to be doing these every Friday from 1 to 3 Central Time. So, and you could find up on the ZBrushLIVE, you can find the other previous episodes. This is my 9th one. And I'm just pretty much going over the same thing to kind of help everyone just kind of relax a little bit and just go from scan heads, just not make it over, you know, difficult, and do these in in an hour, 2 hours, whatever. So, but yeah, it's just more of kind of fun and find shapes and everything like that. You guys have all my information. It should be, you can find me on my website. At the beginning of these videos, drop me a line anytime if you guys have any further questions. I'm more than happy to help if I can. I've had a lot of people ask me about teaching again. I am teaching coming up. I'm trying to get about 15 students, and so I'll be doing those at some point in time. So if you guys are interested, and what I usually teach is what some of you guys have asked. It's not characters. I don't touch ZBrush. I touch Max, all the way from the high poly to low poly and unwrapping and texturing in-game engines like Unreal and Marmoset and a couple other stuff. We do touch upon ZBrush if the class is moving far enough, but I find that once you have that underneath your belt, then you build on it, and then you can kind of go in. Those who are good at characters, I usually try to sit there and say, do like a rhino taxidermy head in the wall, you know what I mean, or a lion statue, or something that actually touches upon your organic ability, but not touching into the character world, because what that does is it allows you to get into a position where there's a lot more possible chances to get in, because usually environment teams will be like 15 to 20, whereas the characters, might have 1 or 2. You get in there, and then it kind of brings you into like a little bit of an organic environment artist, which kind of branches you in between. So when we had on Doom, we were so busy with all our characters, we were like, we need to have some like death corpses and stuff in the corner. We populated that onto an environment artist that was somewhat good. Took some of our stuff and kind of tweaked on it. So yeah, but just drop me a line about anything if you guys have any further questions. I know a few of you were new to ZBrush, so welcome to it. Go through, and there's on pixelogic.com you can find a lot of their classes and everything it goes through, and this program is deep. You really don't need to go into every single nuance. I don't even know it all, and I've been on this program since 2005, because I don't need to know every single little nook and cranny of ZBrush to do my job in and out. So, but I hope that helped, guys. And again, thank you very much for joining and sharing my time. I appreciate it. Yeah, please, side effect, anybody else, drop me a line anytime. There's no stupid question unless you ask me 4 times in a row, then I might say it's not a good question. So, but I'm happy to help. That's what I decided to do this for. So, but I hope you enjoyed the stream today, guys. And yeah, Lamentis, it's worth it. Check it out and get it. And if you wanted to get in games, movies, or whatever, ZBrush is a key program that branches everything. So it's like I said, I wouldn't be telling you to get it if it wasn't worth your time. So I wouldn't be doing it, to be quite honest. So thanks, guys. Have a great weekend and stuff, and I hope to see you next Friday.